Above the sleeping valley, the first pale embers of dawn begin to glow against the jagged silhouette of the mountain range. A soft, cool morning mist rolls lazily across the ancient limestone crags, weaving through crevices of gray rock and damp alpine grasses that whisper gently in the rising current of air. It is early spring, a season of quiet renewal in these high-altitude domains, where the atmosphere carries the crisp, clean scent of melting snow and damp earth. From somewhere down the winding slope, the mellow, rhythmic clank of a distant grazing bell drifts upward on the breeze, blending seamlessly with the delicate liquid notes of early morning birdsong. The world here is vast, tranquil, and suspended in that sacred, breathless pause just before the sun breaches the horizon. This dramatic, weather-sculpted landscape, formed over millions of years of geological shifting and erosion, provides a resilient home for hardy wildlife. Yet, hidden away from the sweeping expanses of the valley below, a sheltered limestone ledge catches the very first, tentative fingers of morning light, protected from the harsher gusts of the mountain wind by a crescent of warm, heat-retaining stone. This secluded nook creates a microclimate of gentle stillness. Here, sheltered by towering walls of marine fossils compressed into stone, the rugged terrain yields to an intimate space of profound serenity, perfectly poised between the wild expanse of the upper peaks and the blossoming meadows far below. Upon this sun-warmed shelf of ancient limestone, life arrives with quiet grace. Resting directly against the cool, mineral-rich stone, a newborn goat lies curled in a delicate heap, having just entered the vast Alpine world. This precocial infant enters existence fully equipped with open awareness, yet its immediate physical state is one of tender vulnerability. Its coat, a dense underlayer of downy insulation mixed with longer guard hairs, is thoroughly damp from the amniotic fluid, matted flat against a frail frame. A gentle mountain wind sweeps across the ledge, causing the tiny form to give a soft, involuntary shiver. This rapid flexing of muscle fibers is a vital, hardwired physiological response. Thermogenesis kicks in immediately to generate metabolic heat, raising the core temperature of the newborn against the crisp spring chill. The kid's eyes, large and dark with horizontal pupils designed for a panoramic field of view, remain mostly closed, slowly adjusting to the pale, diffuse morning light filtering through the mist. With every passing second, the tiny chest rises and falls in a steady, rhythmic cadence. Inward rushes the pristine, oxygen-rich alpine air, inflating immature lungs for the very first time. Each breath expands the ribcage, oxygenating a cardiovascular system that must instantly adapt from intrauterine dependence to independent vitality. Around them, the ecosystem stirs gently, while the limestone bedrock retains the residual warmth of the earth. The damp kid rests quietly, gathering its inner strength, perfectly suspended in the serene stillness of the mountain dawn. Moments after the initial breath, instinct commands the mother to action. She turns her head toward the delicate, damp form resting beside her, her heavy amber eyes softening with immediate, unyielding devotion. With a slow, deliberate purpose, she extends a long, rough-textured tongue, beginning a thorough, rhythmic grooming process that is essential for the newborn's survival. This maternal licking serves a profound biological purpose beyond mere affection. As her warm tongue sweeps repeatedly across the kid's matted coat, it removes the remaining amniotic fluid that would otherwise evaporate and draw vital heat away from the fragile body. Simultaneously, this vigorous mechanical stimulation presses deep into the skin, waking millions of peripheral mechanoreceptors. The friction accelerates capillary blood circulation, rushing warm, oxygenated blood outward to the extremities and rapidly activating brown adipose tissue, the specialized fat reserves that generate non-shivering heat in altricial and precocial mammals alike. Each sweeping stroke of the mother's tongue acts as a natural massage, encouraging the tiny muscles to relax and stretch after the tight confines of gestation. The wet, plastered fur slowly parts, fluffed up and aerated by the natural lanolin oils secreted from her skin during this intimate exchange. As the moisture dissipates, a cloud of steam rises faintly into the cool morning air, marking the transition from chill vulnerability to enveloping warmth. The kid responds instinctively to this attentive ministrations, pressing slightly into the steady rhythm of the maternal tongue, nourished by touch and cradled by the solid limestone earth. The infant's breathing deepens, settling into a peaceful, steady cadence as the first golden rays of sunlight begin to wash across the awakening ledge. As the warmth of the spring sun permeates the air, the newborn begins to map its vast new universe through an immediate sensory awakening. Olfactory receptors, highly evolved and vital for survival, flutter open to capture the rich, grounding scent of the maternal coat. This potent chemical signature imprints instantly upon the infant's brain, creating a secure olfactory anchor that will forever distinguish its mother from the rest of the herd. Beneath its delicate body, the rough texture of the ancient limestone ledge presses firmly against unfolding joints. Specialized tactile corpuscles in the skin register the unyielding mineral solidity of the earth, providing a steady baseline of proprioceptive feedback as tiny, hoofed ankles adjust to the surface. Every microscopic ridge and cool granule of stone communicates the physical reality of the mountain landscape. Simultaneously, the auditory cortex receives its first complex symphony of the Alpine dawn. Drifting upward from the blossoming valley below comes the rich, ambient resonance of rustling grasses and the gentle, metallic chiming of a distant grazing bell. These ambient tones weave together with the melodic morning birdsong echoing off the canyon walls. Every rustle of the gentle mountain wind stirs the fine hairs of the kid's drying ears, translating pressure waves into a comforting tapestry of sound. In this quiet sanctuary of light and texture, the infant rests completely, cradled safely within the welcoming embrace of the earth. Rising above the rustling alpine grasses and the distant chiming of a grazing bell, a softer, more intimate acoustic exchange begins to unfold upon the sun-warmed ledge. The mother pauses her rhythmic grooming, lifting her head to release a low, vibrating murmur, a gentle maternal bleat pitched specifically at a frequency designed to travel short distances without echoing across the open valley. This isn't the loud, resonant call of a separated herd animal. It is a quiet, rhythmic vocalization meant solely for the newborn resting between her hooves. In response, the tiny kid opens its wet, delicate lips to emit a breathy, high-pitched answer. This tentative vocal ping carries an unmistakable signature of pitch and timbre, an acoustic fingerprint encoded within the infant's larynx. Mammalian vocal communication at birth plays a critical role in individual recognition, allowing mother and offspring to forge an exclusive auditory bond amidst the vastness of the mountain environment. By trading these soft, alternating notes, they calibrate their vocal cords to one another, establishing a private channel of security. The mother's subsequent tongue clicks and low hums act as an auditory blanket, reassuring the fragile newborn that it is safe within the shelter of the limestone walls. Each delicate sound reinforces neurological pathways in the infant's developing brain, cementing a deep, instinctive trust. As the gentle mountain wind carries these muted tones away into the awakening morning, the quiet dialogue knits the two lives together, anchoring them firmly in a harmonious rhythm of mutual survival and profound peace. Above the shadowed valley, the high mountain ridge begins to catch the earliest amber glow of morning. Slowly, the first golden rays of sunlight crest the jagged limestone crags, spilling downward to wash completely over the sheltered ledge. This sudden shift in radiant energy brings immediate relief to the newborn kid. Photons of light strike the damp, clinging fibers of its fur, initiating a natural thermodynamic process. As the gentle warmth envelops the fragile herbivore, the ambient air temperature around the rock face rises by a few crucial degrees. Evaporation accelerates, drawing moisture away from the skin, The mother's previous grooming efforts have already separated the wet strands, and now, under the steady solar heat, the compressed layers lift. The kid's coat begins to transform from a plastered silhouette into a thick, fluffy layer of golden down. This insulating underfur traps a microscopic boundary of warm air against the tiny body, providing essential thermal regulation for a mammal whose internal metabolic furnace is still learning to stabilize its own temperature. The soothing heat penetrates deep beneath the skin, relaxing tense muscles and stimulating peripheral blood flow. Stretched comfortably in the expanding pool of sunlight, the newborn stretches a delicate, slender leg. The calcium-rich bones and developing joints absorb the ambient warmth, preparing the young ruminant for its upcoming physiological milestones. Every sunlit minute breathes new vigor into the resting form, easing the transition from the dark, constant warmth of the womb to the brilliant, open expanse of the Alpine world. Lying quietly upon the heated stone, surrounded by the fading chill of dawn, the kid gathers its strength, poised at the threshold of movement and discovery. High above the Alpine meadows, the morning sun finally crests the jagged eastern peaks, spilling a wash of pale, golden light across the sheltered limestone ledge. The air is crisp and carries the fresh scent of thawed earth and blooming spring gentians. A gentle mountain wind sweeps softly over the rock face, rustling the hardy alpine grasses that cling to the crevices below. From somewhere down the slope, the metallic chime of a distant grazing bell drifts lazily on the breeze, accompanied by the sweet, clear notes of awakening songbirds. Bathed in this first tear of warmth, a tiny, newly minted life stirs against the gray stone. The newborn kid lies curled in a quiet hollow, its slender body still damp from the mysteries of birth. As the solar heat begins to penetrate the fine, downy birth coat, millions of microscopic moisture droplets slowly evaporate into the thin mountain air. This vital drying process is essential for avian and mammalian thermoregulation alike, preventing the fragile infant from losing precious body heat to the lingering chill of dawn. Gradually, the physiological awakening takes hold. Deep within the central nervous system, sensory receptors register the pleasant rise in ambient temperature. Eyelids, heavy with the fatigue of the transition from womb to world, flutter open to reveal dark, amber eyes that reflect the vast, bright sky. A soft, involuntary shiver ripples through the slender frame, signaling the autonomic nervous system as it adjusts the metabolic furnace to combat the alpine cold. With a faint, tender bleat that barely carries on the wind, the little goat begins to gather its strength, resting quietly as the morning sun works its steady, warming magic upon the stone. The neurological awakening continues as complex electrical impulses cascade down the spinal cord, activating dormant motor pathways designed by evolution for immediate survival. Inside this tiny, fragile form, the central nervous system fires a sequence of involuntary reflexes, preparing the musculoskeletal network for its first monumental test of gravity. Slowly, the kid begins to stir, blinking against the bright, unfiltered morning light. A wave of tension flows through the delicate frame, triggering a characteristic, full-body stretch. The slender spine arches gracefully outward, while fragile forelimbs extend forward in a long, elegant motion, spreading delicate hooves as if measuring the air itself. Every joint, from the knobby knees to the delicate ankles, flexes and releases in a rhythmic cadence, testing the elasticity of tendons that have never before known resistance. Next come the deliberate movements of the head. The kid lifts its skull from the cool stone, rotating the neck from side to side in slow, sweeping arcs. This crucial motion engages the cervical vertebrae and evaluates the vestibular system nestled deep within the inner ear, which governs balance and spatial orientation. Proprioceptive sensors within the muscle spindles report back to the brain, mapping the body's geometry against the physical world. Each gentle nod and tilt builds vital muscle tone, awakening the intricate wiring that separates a helpless neonate from a precocial survivor. Resting its chin briefly back upon the warm rock, the young goat gathers its reserves, breathing in the rich scents of the mountain while its nervous system prepares for the next great endeavor. Now comes the formidable test of gravity. Driven by deep, ancestral imperatives, the newborn gathers its slender limbs beneath its torso, preparing to bridge the vast distance between stone and sky. The initial effort is a study in neurological trial and error. With a sudden tentative push, the front legs straighten, but the knobby joints instantly splay outward in opposite directions. The immature muscle fibers, though dense with fast twitch potential, lack the synchronized firing patterns required for immediate stability. On the uneven limestone surface, the tiny hooves, soft and sponge-like to cushion the initial impact, slide helplessly apart. The young goat sags downward, touching its chest briefly back to the warming rock. Undeterred, the cerebellum processes the vestibular failure, instantly recalibrating the motor units. A second attempt follows with slightly better tension. The forelimbs lock rigidly, holding the upper torso aloft, while the hind legs scramble beneath the pelvis in a flurry of uncoordinated motion. Every faltering stumble provides essential biofeedback to the developing nervous system. Proprioceptors within the ligaments register the sudden shifts in weight, transmitting high-frequency signals back to the brain to continually adjust muscle tone. The kid wobbles precariously like a wind-up toy winding down, leaning too far forward before swaying back. Yet, with each repetitive tremor and minor collapse, the motor cortex refines its commands. The slender frame shivers slightly under the exertion, generating internal heat as it masters the basic physics of balance, inching ever closer to the steady foundation required for life on the mountain. With a final, perfectly coordinated heave, the kid succeeds in standing fully upright on all four hooves. The delicate architecture of the newborn's anatomy comes into its own as the soft, spongy pads of the brand new cloven hooves press firmly against the sun-warmed stone. These specialized epidermal structures, still tender from the womb, provide crucial friction against the smooth limestone, gripping the micro-textures of the rock face. Subtle postural adjustments ripple continuously through the small frame to maintain equilibrium against the gentle morning breeze drifting up the Alpine slope. The vestibular system in the inner ear works in quiet harmony with the visual cortex, registering the horizon and instantly signaling micro-corrections down the spinal column. When a stray gust of wind threatens to topple the fragile balance, the kid's joints flex just a fraction of a millimeter, absorbing the kinetic energy rather than resisting it entirely. The slender legs, once trembling with sheer exhaustion, now lock into a natural stance, distributing the weight evenly across the pectoral girdle and pelvic arch. Muscles that moments ago fired in erratic bursts now maintain a smooth, low-level tonus, conserving precious energy while keeping the skeleton braced. The body heat generated by this intense neurological and muscular calibration radiates into the crisp air, wrapping the young caprine in a warm, protective envelope. Standing thus against the ancient stone, bathed in golden light, the infant embodies the triumph of evolutionary design, finely poised in absolute stillness above the waking mountain world. With stable footing secured, a new imperative quietly takes command of the newborn's awakened nervous system. The delicate pink nose twitches, sampling the crisp morning air as specialized olfactory receptors detect a rich, familiar scent profile radiating from the maternal source. This chemical beacon, rich in specific pheromones, acts as an invisible map guiding the young caprine's behavior with astonishing precision. Lowering its head, the kid begins a methodical, sweeping motion along the warm limestone shelf, leaning its soft weight gently against the mother's sturdy flank. The maternal coat provides comforting tactile feedback, anchoring the infant as it moves deliberately along the underline. Innate rooting reflexes take over. causing the small muzzle to nudge rhythmically upward against the soft fur, testing the contours of the body with sensitive whiskers and lips. The mother stands in absolute tranquility, lowering her head occasionally to murmur a low, deep-throated rumble that reverberates through her chest and reassures the searching infant. Every sensory cue, the distinct warmth of the body, the rich musky scent of milk, and the gentle slope of the belly funnels the kid's attention toward the rear quarters. Guided entirely by these ancient, hardwired neural pathways, the muzzle finally brushes against the smooth, distended tissue of the udder. The sensory contact triggers an immediate physiological response. The tiny head presses upward with renewed determination, instantly recognizing the source of life after the long, cold hours of the mountain night. With the warm teat firmly between its lips, the newborn initiates a vigorous, rhythmic nursing action. Specialized muscles in the jaw and tongue create a gentle vacuum, drawing down the first vital flow of colostrum. This yellowish, highly concentrated milk is an absolute biological necessity for the precocial neonate, packed with maternal antibodies and essential nutrients that jumpstart an unshielded immune system. As the warm liquid is swallowed, metabolic pathways fire into action, delivering a rapid surge of energy throughout the small, slender frame. The mother remains perfectly still, her steady breathing acting as a soothing metronome against the quiet mountain air. She turns her head to gently graze the kid's damp spine, her warm breath and raspy tongue continuing the crucial process of grooming and thermoregulation. The soft clinking of a distant grazing bell drifts up from the valley below, blending harmoniously with the rustling alpine grasses and the gentle sigh of the morning wind. Fully nourished and enveloped in maternal warmth, the heavy eyelids of the young goat begin to droop. The frenetic energy of the first hours fades into a deep, contented calm as digestion takes over. Slipping downward from the udder, the kid curls its slender legs beneath its body, settling comfortably into the soft, sun-warmed grass beside the mother's sturdy front hoofs. Safe, fed, and completely at peace, the infant's breathing slows into a steady, rhythmic cadence. Surrendering to the profound exhaustion of its miraculous first morning, the little caprine drifts slowly into a restorative, dreamless slumber upon the high mountain ledge. Bathed in the golden, late afternoon glow of spring, the newborn kid stretches its slender limbs, shedding the final stillness of rest. It stands upon the sun-warmed limestone ledge that served as its cradle since birth. Unlike altricial creatures that enter the world helpless and blind, this precocial infant is fully equipped for survival, possessing open eyes, a coat already dense against the chill, and legs ready to carry it across the precipice. A gentle mountain wind sweeps over the crags, carrying the crisp scent of melting snow and sparse alpine vegetation. The kid turns its head, large ears flicking toward the distant call of a high-altitude bird, before its gaze settles on the vast, descending tiers of rock stretching beyond its birthplace. Driven by a deep, ancient instinct, the small creature takes its first tentative forward step. Clack. The sound is faint, a delicate tap of fresh horn against ancient stone. The infant leaves the immediate shelter of the birth nook, venturing onto a wider terrace of weathered gray rock. Every muscle contracts and relaxes with deliberate grace as it navigates the gentle incline. Its slender body absorbs the uneven topography effortlessly, building the foundation of a lifelong mastery of vertical terrain. Just a few meters away, the mother pauses her steady grazing on a tuft of resilient grass. She lifts her head, her amber eyes soft and watchful, and issues a low, rumbling grunt of reassurance. The vibration of her voice rolls across the stone, anchoring the infant in a blanket of maternal security as its world gently, beautifully expands. To truly understand how this tiny wanderer conquers the precipice, one must look closely at its feet. Lifting a slender leg, the kid reveals a marvel of evolutionary engineering. the cloven hoof. Far from being a simple rigid casing, this specialized foot is a dynamic, multi-part instrument designed specifically for extreme vertical terrain. The hoof is divided into two distinct toes that can flex and spread independently of one another. This independent movement allows the foot to mold directly around the contours of the stone, dramatically increasing surface contact. Encircling each toe is a hard outer rim of keratin, the very same protein found in human fingernails. These durable rims act like miniature climbing shoes, wedging securely into microscopic cracks, fissures, and irregularities in the limestone that would offer no purchase to a flat-footed animal. Yet the true secret to the infant's newfound stability lies hidden within. Nestled between and beneath the hard keratin walls are soft, spongy inner pads. These flexible cushions behave much like natural rubber treads, possessing a high coefficient of friction that grips smooth, sun-warmed rock surfaces and prevents slipping on steep inclines. When the kid places its weight down, these rubbery soles compress, absorbing the downward force and pressing firmly against the mineral grains of the mountain. As the little one pauses on a sloping shelf of gray stone, its hooves make microscopic adjustments, constantly reading the texture of the earth through sensitive nerve endings packed tightly within the foot. It is a brilliant biological design, turning the simplest step into a masterclass of traction, balance, and quiet grace. With its remarkable footing secured, the young explorer turns its attention to the world just beneath its knees. Driven by a quiet, innate inquisitiveness, the infant lowers its delicate muzzle to investigate the intricate tapestry of the Alpine floor. Every scent and texture serves as a gentle lesson in survival, feeding a rapidly expanding understanding of the mountain ecosystem. The kid gently touches a smooth, river-polished pebble with the sensitive, velvety skin of its nose. It inhales deeply, cataloging the mineral-rich scent of ancient limestone warmed by the fading spring sunlight. Nearby, a cushion of emerald green moss rests in a shallow depression, inviting a light, trembling nudge from the curious snout. The infant tests the damp, spongy cushion, registering the cool moisture against its whiskers before shifting its gaze to a cluster of early spring shoots. Pushing stubbornly through a narrow rock crevice, these tender green stalks represent the very first taste of future foraging behaviors. The kid nibbles experimentally at a delicate blade, its jaws moving in a slow, rhythmic motion as it processes the unfamiliar flavors of the high-altitude flora. Each sensory input, the rough granite grain, the sweet sap of a fresh leaf, the dry rustle of windswept lichen, sends a cascade of electrical impulses along the developing nervous system. These early investigations do more than satisfy a passing whim. They weave the intricate neural pathways that will guide a lifetime of grazing among the crags. Surrounded by the quiet majesty of the peaks, the little one absorbs the world one texture at a time, cradled in the tranquil stillness of the afternoon. While the kid bounces playfully over minor ridges, testing its newfound balance with soft hoof clicks on the stone, the mother never strays far. She grazes calmly on nearby patches of tender grass, moving with a deliberate, unhurried grace. Her evolutionary design is a masterpiece of mountain survival. Her striking horizontal rectangular pupils provide a remarkable panoramic field of vision, spanning nearly the entire horizon. Without needing to lift her head from the sweet spring greens, she can scan the jagged precipices and open valleys below for potential hazards, maintaining a constant, silent vigil over her offspring. Her relaxed demeanor communicates safety and reassurance across the rocky expanse. Every now and then, she pauses her chewing, swiveling her ears backward to catch the light, rhythmic patter of tiny hooves and the infant's soft, inquiring breaths. A low, gentle grunt escapes her throat, a soothing, resonant vibration carried easily on the gentle mountain wind. It is an auditory anchor, reminding the little one that it is never truly alone in this vast vertical world. In return, the kid pauses its meandering, lifting its small head to acknowledge the familiar sound before resuming its gentle explorations among the sun-warmed boulders. This silent dialogue of watchful presence and trusting response weaves an invisible thread between them, as steady and enduring as the ancient limestone cliffs that cradle their mountain home. The afternoon light deepens into a soft amber glow, bathing the slopes in a tranquil warmth that lulls the steep wilderness into a profound, peaceful stillness. When the small explorer wanders just a few paces farther than before, rounding a weathered outcrop of limestone, the visual connection momentarily breaks, yet the bond remains unbroken, sustained by an invisible acoustic tether designed for the vast, echoing acoustics of the high crags. Sensing the slight separation, the mother pauses her steady grazing and lifts her head. From deep within her chest, she emits a soft, low-pitched maternal grunt, a resonant, guttural vibration that carries easily across the sloping stone. Instantly, the infant halts its gentle hopping among the rustling alpine grasses. It lifts its triangular head, pricking its velvety ears forward to catch the reassuring sound. In direct response to the maternal call, the kid lets out a delicate, high-pitched bleat, a soft, inquiring sound that floats back across the sun-drenched space. This brief exchange of vocalization serves as a natural status check, confirming location, security, and well-being without requiring either animal to close the distance immediately. Such auditory communication is essential in the complex topography of the Alpine zone, where jagged boulders and vertical drops can easily obscure the line of sight. The mother's low rumble anchors the infant in a sea of overwhelming space, while the kid's answering bleat relieves the maternal vigil of any sudden tension. This continuous acoustic dialogue reinforces their secure attachment, wrapping the precocial newborn in a warm blanket of sound as the late afternoon breeze whispers gently through the mountain passes, lulling the high-altitude nursery into an even deeper, more tranquil peace. As the sun dips lower, casting long golden shadows across the weathering limestone ridges, the day's physical exertion finally catches up with the young kid. Every leap, every delicate placement of its specialized cloven hooves has gently exhausted its growing muscles. Seeking comfort, the infant trots back toward the familiar, reassuring silhouette of its mother. It settles into a shallow, sheltered rock alcove, a natural nook carved by centuries of wind and frost. This ancient stone has spent the afternoon absorbing the sun's radiant heat, and now, as the mountain air begins to cool, it acts as a gentle thermal battery, radiating a steady, comforting warmth. This passive heat helps the precocial newborn maintain its core body temperature without expending precious metabolic energy, a vital survival strategy in the high alpine environment. Curling its slender legs neatly beneath its sturdy body, the kid lets out a long, sighing breath. Its eyelids grow heavy, and the velvety ears twitch just once before relaxing completely. Just a few feet away, the mother settles down beside the alcove, her large body forming a protective windbreak against the gentle mountain breeze. She continues to chew slowly, her rhythmic movements a steady cadence of peace. Resting securely in the sunlit nook, the infant breathes peacefully, its chest rising and falling in slow, hypnotic harmony with the rhythms of the mountain. Distant bird calls fade into the quiet dusk, leaving only the soft rustling of alpine grasses outside their rocky sanctuary, wrapping the sleepy newborn in a deep, restorative slumber. High upon the sheltered stone cradle, the slant of late afternoon sunlight washes the steep cliffside in amber warmth. For weeks, this narrow limestone ledge has been the entire universe for the young kid, a secure, solitary sanctuary where muscles grew strong and steady hooves learned the language of vertical rock. But as the shadows lengthen across the valley, a subtle shift stirs the mountain air. The mother turns her head, releasing a low, resonant hum from deep within her chest. It is a familiar, calming signal that gently beckons her offspring toward a new horizon. With eager yet cautious steps, the juvenile untucks its legs from a resting sprawl and rises. Its growing frame exhibits a newfound physical coordination, each bound measured and deliberate as it follows the maternal lead. Mountain goats are altricial-leaning ungulates, born with open eyes and functional limbs, yet the nuanced mechanics of traversing sloping terrain require continuous maternal guidance. The mother picks a path of least resistance, pausing frequently to allow the youngster to catch its breath and match her steady rhythm. As they ease away from the protective overhang, the soundscape shifts. A gentle breeze whispers through sparse alpine shrubs, carrying the distant, reassuring chime of a grazing bell from the valley floor. Soft birdsong drifts upward, blending with the rhythmic clicking of hard hooves against weathered slate. Every descent down the winding gravel track builds the kid's spatial awareness and motor skills, essential milestones in early development. Leaving the familiar ledge is a quiet transition, a slow stepping away from isolation and toward the sprawling, communal life waiting below where the green meadows gently embrace the mountain. Emerging from the stony corridor, the steep descent opens into a breathtaking sanctuary. Here, where the mountain softens into a sprawling lower meadow, the air turns thick with the rich scent of sun-baked alpine clover and damp earth. A gentle breeze sweeps across the lush expanse, carrying with it a symphony of soft bleats and the contented rustling of leaves. The mother and her kid step quietly onto the vibrant green carpet, entering a living mosaic of families. Several other maternal pairs are already gathered in the sheltered basin, their ivory coats glowing in the long rays of sunset. For the juvenile, this is a world-expanding moment. In the ecology of high-altitude ungulates, safety is found not in isolation, but in numbers, a phenomenon known as the dilution effect. By clustering together, the herd drastically reduces individual vulnerability to wandering predators. More eyes scanning the horizon mean less time each animal must spend on solitary vigilance, allowing the adults to graze peacefully and the young to rest. As the pair approaches the congregation, the newcomers are met with quiet curiosity. Older females raise their heads, their curved horns silhouetted against the deepening amber sky, acknowledging the arrivals with unhurried grace. Other playful kids, similar in age and boundless curiosity, pause their gentle sparring matches to watch the newcomer draw near. The atmosphere is remarkably tranquil, devoid of tension, governed instead by an ancient, unspoken social harmony. Surrounded by the gentle presence of the collective, the young goat feels a profound sense of ease wash over its small frame. The vast, intimidating mountain suddenly feels smaller, warmer, and infinitely more welcoming. In this bustling nursery of the lower meadow, vision is only one tool for navigation. As twilight deepens, the rich sensory world of the herd shifts primarily to the realm of olfaction. Goats possess an extraordinary olfactory system, utilizing specialized glands near their horns and hooves to release complex chemical signatures. These scent profiles act as invisible signatures, communicating identity, age, and reproductive status to the entire social network. The young kid takes a tentative step forward, its small black nose twitching rhythmically as it encounters another juvenile. The two youngsters touch noses in a delicate, breath-warm greeting, inhaling deeply. This nose-to-nose contact allows them to sample unique pheromones, instantly determining whether the stranger belongs to the trusted inner circle of the maternal herd. Turning back to find its anchor, the kid navigates through a maze of slender ivory legs. Dozens of adult females graze in close proximity, each carrying a distinct fragrance blended from crushed clover, resinous pine, and personal musk. Yet, amidst this rich olfactory tapestry, the kid homes in on one particular scent, the comforting, familiar chemistry of its mother. A soft, guttural bleat from the adult reinforces the bond, vibrating gently through the evening air as a reassuring acoustic beacon. To a developing mammal, This combination of scent and sound is profoundly grounding. By cataloging these distinct chemical and auditory markers, the kid begins to map the foundational architecture of the herd's social hierarchy. Every gentle nudge and shared breath weaves a tighter web of communal trust, preparing the young goat to find its secure place within the collective family. Beyond the exchange of scent, the young kid begins to watch the quieter language passing between the older members of the maternal herd. Social harmony in the high country relies heavily on subtle body postures rather than overt displays of dominance. Standing quietly near its mother, the juvenile observes two adult females settling a minor boundary dispute without a single sound or raised hoof. One goat turns her head slightly away, lowering her horns in a classic appeasement gesture, while her companion softly tilts her ears forward to signal peaceful intent. These microscopic shifts in posture fascinate the observant kid. It notices how relaxed ear positions indicate safety, while a sudden stiffening of the spine alerts the surrounding group to potential shadows in the distance. To deepen these bonds, mature females engage in mutual grooming, gently rubbing their cheeks and necks together along shared scent glands. This tactile behavior releases soothing endorphins, reinforcing alliances and reducing stress across the entire family network. The kid mimics these peaceful motions, lightly brushing its own small forehead against the flank of a resting neighbor. The adult does not pull away, instead offering a slow, calming blink, an ancient mammalian signal of trust and acceptance. Without any aggressive conflict, the juvenile absorbs the unwritten rules of community living. Every shared breath, gentle touch, and quiet posture weaves the young goat deeper into the fabric of the herd, wrapping it in a profound and restorative peace as the evening deepens. As daylight softens into sunset, the painted clouds of the high country fade from amber to indigo. The scattered foraging groups across the lower meadow naturally draw closer together, guided by an ancient, instinctive urge for safety in numbers. This collective movement creates a rhythmic, calming atmosphere as dozens of hooves tread softly upon the resilient alpine turf. The goats prepare for the approaching evening, winding down their active grazing with unhurried grace. The young kid feels this gentle shift in the air. The expansive meadow seems to contract into a cozy, enclosed sanctuary. Mothers and their offspring drift toward one another, forming a dense, protective cluster against the cooling stones. The sharp edges of the landscape blur in the twilight, replaced by the soft contours of resting bodies. Breathing slows in unison across the herd, creating a steady, ambient pulse that matches the steady blowing of the evening breeze through the mountain grasses. Within this tight circle, the temperature remains a few degrees warmer, trapped by thick wool coats and shared proximity. The juvenile settles deeply into the meadow soil right beside its mother, tucking its small legs neatly beneath its chest. All around them, the quiet murmurs of settling companions drift through the dusk, a soft exhale here, the gentle rustle of a shifting hoof there, cradled by the collective presence of the maternal herd. The kid lets its heavy eyelids droop. The final sounds of the day fade into a profound, restorative stillness, wrapping the young goat in a deep and dreamless peace. Deep within the heart of the resting cluster, the young goat finds its permanent place for the night. Pressed securely against its mother's warm flank, the juvenile experiences the profound biological benefits of herd dormancy. In this tight-knit assembly, resting herbivores optimize their safety by sharing environmental vigilance, allowing individual heart rates to slow significantly. The rhythmic rise and fall of the mother's chest provides a steady metronome of comfort, anchoring the kid in a state of profound physical security. All around them, the gentle mechanics of rumination fill the cooling air with a soft, steady sound. Adult females quietly rechew their evening forage, their rhythmic jaw movements releasing a soothing, monotonous white noise that echoes softly across the meadow floor. This continuous digestive chorus acts as an auditory blanket, signaling to the nervous system of every young animal present that all is well within the social circle. The fading sky shifts from deep violet to a velvet midnight black, dotted by the first cautious stars of the high Alpine night. A gentle, cooling breeze flows over the herd, but the thick, insulating undercoats of the gathered goats effortlessly trap their shared body heat. Protected on all sides by the quiet bulk of the maternal group, the kid relaxes every remaining muscle. Its small head rests softly upon the turned earth, and its breathing deepens into a slow, synchronized cadence. Floating on the edges of waking and sleep, the young goat surrenders completely to the restorative quiet of the mountain wilderness. As the final amber rays of the sun slip below the jagged, snow-dusted peaks of the high-altitude range, long indigo shadows stretch softly across the blossoming spring landscape. High on the mountainside, a protective limestone overhang forms a natural amphitheater, shielding the resting herd from the gathering chill of the nocturnal alpine air. A gentle mountain breeze sweeps over the cliffside, carrying the sweet, earthy fragrance of damp soil and awakening flora. Beneath the deepening vault of the twilight sky, the maternal herd settles into a rhythmic, comforting closeness. Among them rests a growing kid, its small frame tucked securely against the warm flank of its mother. Outside this safe, stony haven, a distant night bird song echoes down the valley, fading into the quiet stillness of the wilderness. In this sheltered sanctuary, the frantic energy of the daytime meadows melts away. The faint, rhythmic rustle of hooves shifting against dry shale marks the herd finding their comfortable resting positions for the night. The mother lowers her weight onto folded legs with a soft, contented sigh, her breath rising in a faint plume in the cooling air. Beside her, the juvenile leans its head trustingly against her fleece, absorbing the steady, reassuring warmth of maternal protection. The stage is set for the long, peaceful hours of darkness, where hidden internal transformations begin to stir beneath the quiet surface of the mountain nursery. Before the long hours of darkness take full hold, the growing kid turns its attention toward its mother for one final, vital meal. This evening nursing session serves as a crucial biological bridge, delivering a concentrated surge of proteins, fats, and antibodies that have fueled the juvenile's rapid development since birth. As the kid nuzzles against its mother's udder with eager, rhythmic bumps, this rich maternal milk provides the immediate caloric energy needed for its lengthening bones and strengthening muscles. Yet, beneath this familiar act of dependence, the juvenile's internal biology is quietly shifting toward maturity. The rich fluid bypasses the developing fermentation vats, flowing directly through the esophageal groove into the true stomach for efficient digestion. This specialized anatomical pathway ensures that while the young ungulate takes its first tentative steps toward solid forage, it still receives the powerhouse nutrition necessary to sustain its high metabolic rate in the chilly alpine environment. The mother stands patiently, her half-closed eyes reflecting deep maternal calm as she offers this foundational nourishment. She responds with soft, low rumbles of reassurance, a comforting vocalization that envelops her offspring in a cocoon of safety. With each slow swallow, the kid absorbs not only the life-giving sustenance of milk, but also the deep-seated security of the herd. As the nursing concludes, the juvenile gives a contented little sigh, its belly full and warm, gently settling its weight onto the soft earth. The final ties to pure infancy slowly loosen, making way for the complex digestive journey that awaits beneath the starry, quiet mountain night. Driven by an innate, rising curiosity, the young goat shifts its weight against the cool earth and turns its attention toward the edge of the rocky shelter. Just beyond the protective overhang, a delicate cluster of alpine herbs and tender spring shoots sways gently in the evening air. Slowly, the juvenile rises on wobbly legs, drawn toward the rich botanical variety of the mountain meadow. It extends its muzzle, utilizing a velvety, highly sensitive upper lip that functions as an exquisite tactile organ. This specialized lip whisks across the vegetation, expertly sorting the most succulent leaves and avoiding the coarser stems. With careful, deliberate movements, the kid tests the texture of the living flora, its delicate lower incisors pressing gently against the hardened dental pad of its upper jaw to nip away a fragile blade of mountain grass. This first taste of solid plant material is an evolutionary milestone. The green juices release subtle earthy flavors on the kid's tongue, signaling the awakening of ancestral instincts encoded deeply within its growing body. Each tender morsel is thoroughly coated in saliva as the young animal explores this strange new world of fiber and chlorophyll. Though its digestive system is not yet fully equipped to break down complex plant walls entirely on its own, this exploratory nibbling initiates a vital biological countdown. The physical act of chewing stimulates an immediate flow of saliva, laying the chemical groundwork for the microbial universe that will soon colonize its internal chambers. The mountain meadow offers its gifts quietly, welcoming the juvenile into the ancient circle of herbivores. Deep within the small, resilient body of the young goat lies a biological marvel shaped by millions of years of evolutionary design. Right now, as the night air cools, a quiet metabolic transformation is underway. Unlike simple stomached mammals, the growing kid is destined to become a ruminant, a specialized creature equipped with a magnificent, four-chambered stomach engineered to unlock the hidden nutrients locked inside tough plant fibers. At birth, only the abomasum, the true stomach, is fully active, designed perfectly for digesting rich maternal milk. But with every tender blade of mountain grass and every stray herbal leaf the juvenile samples, nature begins its intricate work. The largest of the chambers, the rumen, waits like a vast, dormant fermentation vat. In the weeks ahead, this warm, moisture-rich sanctuary will become home to billions of beneficial bacteria and protozoa. These microscopic allies are the true chemists of the Alpine world. They alone possess the specialized enzymes capable of breaking down cellulose, the rigid structural material that makes up plant cell walls. For now, the rumen is still developing, stimulated by the roughage of solid food and the steady flow of alkaline saliva produced during chewing. Each modest nibble sends vital chemical signals through the vagus nerve, encouraging the internal walls to expand, thicken, and prepare for their lifelong task. It is a slow, methodical biological awakening happening entirely in the dark. As the kid rests comfortably against its mother's warm flank, digestion hums along at a peaceful, steady pace, bridging the gap between a milk-fed infancy and the independent, herbivorous life waiting across the sunlit mountain meadows of tomorrow. Deep into the quiet hours of the night, the surrounding adult goats engage in a timeless, rhythmic cycle of rumination. Under the protective shadow of the rock overhang, the herd rests in deep repose, their steady breathing mingling with the gentle mountain breeze. Across the darkened nursery, the soft, hypnotic sounds of cud chewing drift through the cool air, a peaceful, repetitive motion that has sustained their lineage across the rugged peaks for millennia. The young kid, nestled close against its sleeping mother, wakes briefly to the soothing sound. With large, dark eyes absorbing the silver starlight, the juvenile observes the tranquil resting postures of the older animals. Instinctively, the little goat mirrors them, tucking its slender legs neatly beneath its warm body and letting out a tiny, contented sigh. Inside the kid's developing core, the first green shoots harvested at dusk begin their slow journey through the delicate chambers. Although the grand fermentation vats are still in their infancy, the complex chemistry of digestion never truly sleeps. Nutrients from both milk and plant matter are quietly absorbed into the bloodstream, fueling the steady growth of bone and muscle beneath a velvety coat. The rhythmic swaying of the mother's jaw as she rechews her own cud provides a steady, comforting metronome in the dark. Surrounded by the sleeping herd and cradled by the silent majesty of the high-altitude ecosystem, the kid drifts back toward sleep. The mountain nursery settles into profound stillness, wrapped in the cool embrace of spring, while nature quietly builds the resilient herbivore of tomorrow. Countless stars sparkle above the silent mountain crags, casting a pale, luminous glow across the rugged limestone faces of the high-altitude wilderness. High above the valley floor, the crisp spring air carries the faint, clean scent of melting snow and damp earth, punctuated by the whisper of a gentle mountain breeze weaving through the dormant alpine pines. The resting kid breathes softly in the cool air, its chest rising and falling in a slow, even cadence. Inside its small body, metabolism hums at a steady, restorative pace, utilizing the rich energy of milk and tender herbaceous shoots to quietly construct the resilient frame of a true mountaineer. Every breath and heartbeat reinforces the delicate physiological architecture that will one day allow it to scale the steepest precipices with absolute grace. Perfectly attuned to the peaceful sanctuary of the rocky overhang, the juvenile relaxes completely, surrendering to the deep, healing restorative powers of sleep. The mother rests beside her offspring, her warm flank providing a reliable barrier against the chill of the nocturnal alpine heights. Around them, the quiet mountain nursery slumbers under a vast, glittering canopy of constellations. Distant night birdsong drifts softly from the lower timberline, blending with the whisper of the wind to form a natural, soothing lullaby. In this timeless haven of stone and starlight, the young life rests secure, cradled by the tranquil majesty of the changing season, ready to greet the unfolding warmth of the approaching summer. A gentle wind carries the cool scent of melting snow across the lower slopes, whispering through the awakening alpine flora. As the first pale rays of dawn paint the jagged peaks in shades of rose and gold, the mountain goat herd stirs from its resting place. The changing season brings a biological imperative. The lower spring ranges are maturing, their vegetation growing fibrous and scarce as the warmth of summer takes hold. Higher above, on the sun-drenched plateaus, a bounty of tender, protein-rich grasses and blossoming herbs awaits. Driven by the rapid growth cycle of high-altitude plants, the matriarch lifts her head, testing the crisp morning air, and emits a soft, resonant call. It is the ancient signal for the ascent, a seasonal migration etched into the collective memory of the herd. Hooves click softly against gray stone as the group aligns along well-worn narrow paths that zigzag up the steep escarpment. In the distance, the melodic chime of a solitary brass bell drifts across the valley, harmonizing with the early trills of high-altitude birds waking in the dwarf pines. The atmosphere is serene yet expectant. Every animal feels the pull of the upper ridges, where the thinner mountain air holds a crisp, invigorating freshness. As the herd begins its steady, deliberate climb toward the sky, the physiological transition from the lower valleys to the roof of the world begins. Muscles warm with the rhythmic effort, preparing for a day of exploration in a landscape reborn under the steady march of summer. Along the steep mountain flank, the trail unfolds in a series of careful switchbacks, carved deep into the limestone and slate over countless generations. These traditional paths are masterpieces of efficiency, mapped out by instinct and necessity to negotiate the vertical terrain with minimal expenditure of energy. The lead matriarch moves with a deliberate, unhurried cadence, her experienced eyes scanning the upcoming ledges for stability and safety. She carries the ancestral memory of the range, guiding the collective movement with subtle shifts in posture and posture-aligned steps. Directly behind her, the juvenile goat steps carefully into the fading imprint of its mother's hoof. This close following behavior is crucial for the young animal's anatomical learning. Every stride reinforces neuromuscular pathways, teaching the growing skeleton and developing muscles how to adapt to changing inclines. The juvenile watches the precise placement of the older female's cloven hooves, specialized structures featuring hard outer keratin rims and soft, rubbery inner pads designed to grip uneven stone like natural climbing shoes. As the procession winds upward, the herd moves in a synchronized rhythm, a living chain of tawny coats and curved horns ascending the escarpment. The mothers pause periodically, allowing their calves a moment to catch their breath in the thinning air, ensuring the group remains unified. With each upward turn of the switchback, the horizon expands below, revealing the deep shadow of the valley floor receding into morning mist, while the sunlit crests of the upper world draw steadily closer. Leaving the smooth dirt track behind, the ascending path dissolves into a vast sea of weathered granite boulders, scattered across the slope like giant stepping stones left by the glaciers of an ancient era. Here, the true athleticism of the juvenile goat awakens. Buoyed by the crisp, invigorating mountain air, the young animal feels a surge of boundless energy through its lengthening limbs. With a buoyant spring, the juvenile leaves the security of the main trail to test its coordination across the complex rocky terrain. Its growing musculoskeletal system responds with fluid precision. Each leap is a quiet marvel of biomechanics. Powerful hind legs compress and release like coiled springs, projecting the lightweight body across widening gaps. Mid-air, the juvenile adjusts its posture instinctively, tail flicking slightly for balance before landing with absolute stillness on a narrow granite crest. The specialized anatomy of the hoof proves its worth on this uneven stage. The dual toes spread wide to cup the convex surfaces of the stones, while the pliable central pads mold seamlessly to microscopic irregularities in the quartz and feldspar. There is no hesitation, only a graceful dance of momentum and friction. A gentle breeze carries the scent of warming stone and crushed mountain thyme as the young goat bounds effortlessly from one moss-dusted boulder to the next, keeping pace with the unhurried procession of the herd. Every successful landing reinforces the neural pathways connecting vision, balance, and muscle memory, transforming youthful play into the essential survival skills of the high-altitude realm. Cresting the final steep incline, the weary slope relents, and the herd steps out onto a sprawling, sun-drenched plateau. A gentle wind sweeps across the expanse, carrying the rich, earthy fragrance of damp soil and blooming alpine vegetation. Lush green grasses, resilient dwarf willows, and vibrant mountain wildflowers stretch as far as the eye can see under the brightening summer sky. This high-altitude sanctuary is a botanical masterpiece born of melting snowpacks and intense, lingering daylight. The flora here has adapted to a compressed growing season by storing concentrated nutrients within their leaves and blossoms. For the juvenile goat, this lush expanse represents an ecological bounty. The fresh alpine grasses and tender clover offer high levels of crude protein and digestible carbohydrates, perfectly timed to fuel the next phase of its skeletal development and seasonal weight gain. As the matriarchs slow their steady pace, the long line disperses into the sea of green. The juvenile stands for a quiet moment at the plateau's edge, chest rising and falling to the rhythm of deep, restorative breaths. The air here is thinner, carrying fewer oxygen molecules per inhalation, yet the young animal's lungs and heart have grown remarkably efficient, adapting seamlessly to the atmospheric demands of the heights. With a soft rustling of alpine grasses, the juvenile lowers its muzzle to the turf. It selects a tender tuft of yellow avens and sweet vernal grass, utilizing its hard dental pad and lower incisors to clip the vegetation cleanly. A distant, mellow grazing bell chimes softly on the breeze, harmonizing with the quiet tearing of stems and the contented murmurs of the resting herd. Bathed in the warm horizontal light of early morning, the plateau settles into a peaceful, rhythmic pulse of life. The feeding behavior of the young goat shifts from exploratory nibbling to deliberate, sustained foraging. Every choice of plant is guided by an instinctive nutritional wisdom passed down through generations. It bypasses tougher, fibrous stalks, instead targeting the soft rosettes of alpine clover and the pale purple blossoms of mountain pansies. These high-altitude herbs synthesize secondary metabolites and concentrated sugars to protect themselves from intense ultraviolet radiation, inadvertently providing the juvenile with an exceptionally energy-dense meal. As the morning deepens, the young animal employs a rhythmic chewing motion, moving its lower jaw in a wide, circular sweep. This specialized grinding action breaks down tough cellular walls, unlocking essential minerals and proteins crucial for bone mineralization and muscle mass expansion. Saliva flows freely, aiding in digestion as the rich nutrients are absorbed into its developing bloodstream, fueling the rapid cellular growth characteristic of this juvenile life stage. Around it, the rest of the herd shares in the bounty. The soft rustling of foliage and the gentle tearing of stems create a soothing, ambient lullaby across the plateau. With a full belly and a growing sense of security in its high home, the young goat lets its eyelids grow heavy. It steps slowly toward a sun-warmed granite slab, curls its slender legs beneath its warm body, and rests its chin softly upon the cool stone, surrendering completely to the quiet peace of the mountain summer. High above the timberline, the morning sun fully illuminates the vast expanse of the high plateau, washing the rocky ridges in a soft, golden light. The thin mountain air carries the sweet, earthy fragrance of sun-warmed soil and blooming herbs. Across the wide meadow, the herd disperses gently, moving in a slow, harmonious rhythm that matches the tranquil pulse of the alpine ecosystem. A distant grazing bell chimes softly on the breeze, its soothing ring fading into the vast openness of the sky. On a flat granite rock that has absorbed the early warmth, the juvenile goat rests peacefully. Its eyes are half closed, heavy with contentment after its morning feast. Within its growing body, complex physiological processes continue quietly. Nutrients absorbed from the rich mountain flora fuel cellular repair, tissue growth, and the steady strengthening of bone and muscle. The juvenile breathes deeply, its chest rising and falling in a slow, steady cadence. Around it, the sounds of summer create a natural lullaby. The gentle wind whispers through the rustling alpine grasses, blending with the occasional soft clip of hooves on stone as a neighboring matriarch shifts her weight. Far below, the green valleys stretch out in hazy shadow, a distant world far removed from this sanctuary of stone and sky. The young goat lets out a soft, contented sigh, surrendering completely to the deep, restorative quiet of the high-altitude afternoon. Here, cradled by the ancient peaks, time slows, and all is still. The morning sun spills warm amber light over the jagged limestone peaks, painting the high alpine crags in brilliant shades of gold and rose. High above the timberline, where the air thins and the world is sculpted from ancient stone and sky, a young juvenile goat awakens to the crisp mountain wind. Stretching its growing limbs, the animal turns its attention away from the gentle meadow grasses and toward the dramatic, dizzying world of the vertical cliffs. With a natural, unhurried curiosity, the juvenile approaches the edge of a sheer precipice. Far below, a distant tumbling stream weaves a silver ribbon through the deep green valley, its sound softened by the vastness of the empty air. There is no hesitation in the young goat's stride, no tremor of fear as it gazes down into the yawning abyss. An innate, ancient confidence pulls it toward the rock face. The environment here is a masterclass in elemental sculpture. Patches of resilient alpine moss cling tenaciously to the crevices, rustling softly under the gentle breath of the morning breeze. Overhead, The echoing call of an Alpine bird drifts across the stone amphitheater, sharp and clear against the quiet expanse. Every sensory detail speaks of altitude, space, and a profound, tranquil isolation. As the juvenile steps closer to the sheer drop, it embodies a seamless harmony with the extreme terrain. The sheer walls of limestone, weathered by centuries of wind and snow, offer pathways that seem impossible to anything less purposefully designed. Yet, the young climber stands at the precipice completely at ease, perfectly attuned to the breathtaking scale of the high mountain sanctuary. To understand the quiet miracle of this vertical journey, one must look closely at the ground itself, where a masterpiece of biological engineering meets the stone. The juvenile places a foreleg forward, the soft click of hooves on stone echoing faintly in the still morning air. At the base of each limb lies a specialized cloven hoof, split entirely into two independent digits that move and adjust with remarkable autonomy. Each half of the hoof is encased in a tough, resilient keratin rim. This outer edge acts much like a mountaineer's steel crampon, designed to catch even the most microscopic fracture or irregularity in the ancient limestone. Yet the true secret to this impossible traction lies hidden just within this hard perimeter. Tucked inside the outer casing is a soft, rubbery, concave pad. When the juvenile presses its weight downward, this inner cushion flattens and molds itself seamlessly to the contours of the rock face. Acting much like a natural suction cup combined with high-friction rubber, the pad grips the sheer surface, conforming to every tiny grain and crystalline ridge of the mineral. Because the two toes flex independently, the hoof can pinch a narrow stone ledge from both sides simultaneously. This dynamic articulation distributes the young animal's weight evenly, transforming a precarious sliver of rock into a secure foundation. There is no slipping, no hesitation, only a quiet, mechanical certainty rooted in millions of years of evolutionary design. As the breeze rustles the damp alpine moss nearby, the juvenile shifts its weight effortlessly from one foot to the other, perfectly bonded to the steep vertical world through the quiet genius of its own anatomy. Lifting its head from the rock, the juvenile pauses to survey the breathtaking expanse of the craggy wilderness. To navigate such a dizzying precipice without misstep requires more than remarkable traction. It demands an extraordinary visual map of the entire three-dimensional world. The young goat turns its head slightly, revealing wide-set eyes positioned uniquely toward the sides of its skull. This strategic placement grants the animal an expansive panoramic field of view, sweeping nearly 360 degrees. Without ever turning its gaze away from the path ahead, the juvenile can monitor the sheer dropfall below and the vast azure sky above simultaneously. Within these large, amber-toned eyes lie distinctive horizontal rectangular pupils. This unique anatomical feature functions as a natural wide-angle lens, maximizing the amount of light entering the eye from the horizon while restricting the harsh glare descending from the bright summer sun. As the juvenile looks out over the yawning canyon, the horizontal alignment of the pupil casts a wide, sweeping plane across the rugged landscape. Every distant ridge, every narrow fissure in the limestone, and every shadowed alcove comes into sharp, level focus across the retina. This specialized vision allows the animal to calculate depth and distance with absolute precision across vast open spaces. There is no disorientation in the heights, only a calm, uninterrupted awareness of the terrain. The gentle, crisp mountain wind sweeps over the cliff face, carrying the distant, tranquil sound of a tumbling stream far below, while the juvenile gazes outward, perfectly at home in the vastness of the vertical realm. With the vastness of the valley mapped clearly in its mind, the juvenile turns its attention back to the immediate pathway of stone. A narrow gap separates the current resting spot from a sun-warmed ledge across a dizzying drop of empty air. For the young goat, this is not a hazard to be feared, but an invitation to move. The mechanics of the jump begin deep within the hindquarters. Powerful muscles coil and compress like coiled springs, storing kinetic energy with quiet efficiency. Without hesitation, the juvenile launches forward. The takeoff is clean, powerful, and utterly devoid of panic. In midair, the body lengthens, aerodynamic and perfectly balanced against the gentle, crisp mountain wind. The animal does not rely on luck. Its brain calculates trajectory, distance, and landing velocity in a fraction of a second, merging acute spatial awareness with instantaneous physical response. Every movement is fluid, governed by an innate grace refined through generations of high-altitude living. The landing is a masterclass in biomechanical precision. The front hooves strike the opposing ledge first, absorbing the impact with synchronized flexibility. The specialized split toes flare outward, instantly locking onto the micro-textures of the limestone, while the flexible pasterns drop down to cushion the force. Rear hooves follow an instant later, slotting perfectly onto the stone directly beneath the center of gravity. There is no slide, no stumble, and no wasted motion. Only the soft click of hooves on stone echoes against the cliff face, harmonizing with the distant tumbling stream below and the rustling alpine moss clinging to the crevices. The juvenile stands motionless on the new shelf, completely composed, having crossed the void with effortless mastery. To understand this effortless grace is to look back across millennia of silent, patient evolution. The limestone peaks surrounding the young goat were carved by ancient glaciers and relentless weather, creating a harsh, vertical sanctuary that barred most predators from entry. In response to this austere environment, caprine anatomy evolved in tandem with the geography itself. Every contour of the juvenile's specialized hooves, every nuance of its skeletal structure, and every pathway within its expanding spatial memory represents an ancient geological partnership written in flesh and bone. The mountain does not yield easily to its inhabitants, yet the juvenile belongs to this jagged landscape as completely as the lichen clinging to the shaded crevices or the gray granite beneath its feet. High above the timberline, the ecosystem thrives on this delicate balance between gravity and agility. A distant tumbling stream babbles a steady, hypnotic rhythm down in the basin, while the crisp mountain wind sweeps gently over the sunlit crags, carrying the clean scents of high-altitude flora. Pausing against the warm stone, the young goat rests in complete harmony with the vertical world. Its breathing is slow and steady, matching the tranquil cadence of the morning. Here, suspended between the deep valleys and the vast, clear sky, life unfolds with quiet resilience. The juvenile closes its eyes for a brief moment, cradled by the warmth of the sun and the enduring strength of the peaks. Perfectly at home in the breathtaking expanse of the Alpine morning, a gentle warmth begins to radiate from the sun-drenched limestone, chasing away the residual chill of dawn and settling deeply into the dense fleece of the resting juvenile. High above the timberline, the crisp mountain wind softens into a lazy summer breeze, carrying only the faintest whispers of the distant tumbling stream far down in the green basin below. This secure, sun-warmed ledge provides a perfect vantage point. Turning its head with fluid, unhurried ease, the young goat scans the sweeping horizon. The panoramic field of vision, afforded by horizontal rectangular pupils, takes in the vast, peaceful expanse of the alpine world without a single nervous twitch. Every shadow in the valley and every shifting cloud above is registered in quiet, calm awareness. Slowly, the echoing call of an alpine bird drifts across the rocky amphitheater, bouncing softly off the gray granite walls before fading into the silent stillness of the heights. The juvenile exhales a long, relaxed breath, its muscles finally surrendering the subtle tension of morning exploration. It lowers its weight against the stable stone, folding its slender legs neatly beneath its warm body. Amidst the rustling alpine moss that cushions the edges of the rocky outcrop, the young goat rests completely undisturbed. Suspended between earth and sky, embraced by the timeless strength of the ancient peaks, the vertical world grows wonderfully quiet, lulling the spirit into a deep and abiding peace as midday approaches. The high-altitude summer sun climbs toward its zenith, radiating an intense, golden warmth across the sprawling alpine meadow. The shimmering heat waves rise from the sparse grasses, prompting a quiet, instinctual shift across the landscape. The juvenile goat pauses its morning foraging, feeling the heavy, sun-drenched air settle warmly against its coat. Following the lead of the older, experienced members of the herd, the young caprine begins a slow, deliberate march away from the exposed slopes. Ahead loom the massive, weathered forms of ancient granite boulders, their pale surfaces baking in the direct light but casting deep, welcoming pools of shadow beneath their jutting ledges. As the herd drifts into this natural alcove, the ambient temperature drops noticeably. The air beneath the rocky overhang feels cool and still, rich with the earthy scent of dry mountain soil. Sun-warmed stone and damp alpine moss clinging to the crevices. The juvenile navigates through the loose gravel, the small stones shifting with a soft, sliding murmur underfoot. It selects a sheltered patch of ground where the earth has retained the coolness of the deep stone. With a gentle sigh, the young goat folds its slender legs neatly beneath its sturdy body, tucking its hooves close and resting its weight evenly upon the sternum. All around, the rest of the herd settles into a synchronized pattern of repose. Heads remain raised just high enough to survey the sunlit valley below, maintaining a quiet, collective vigilance. Here, sheltered from the midday glare, the energetic pace of the morning melts away, replaced by the deep, restorative calm of the high mountains. Resting in such close proximity provides a profound, instinctual sense of security for the juvenile goat. Surrounded by the steady, calm forms of older herd members, the young animal feels safe enough to relax its muscles completely. Heads are held upright or rested lightly upon the ground, while wide, rectangular horizontal pupils remain half-closed yet perpetually aware of the surrounding landscape. This collective resting behavior is a masterpiece of evolutionary design. By clustering together beneath the granite overhang, the goats share a unified zone of shade and vigilance. While individual animals drift into light, restorative dozes, the herd as a whole never truly sleeps simultaneously. Eyes and ears rotate in gentle, overlapping shifts, maintaining a low-level environmental awareness that watches over the peaceful alcove. The atmosphere beneath the stone is one of deep, settling stillness. The warmth of the late afternoon breeze brushes softly against the outer fringes of the shade, but inside the alcove, the air remains tranquil. The quiet is broken only by the gentle whisper of passing air through the alpine brush, the faint, echoing call of a distant raptor soaring high above the valley, and the slow, rhythmic breathing of resting herbivores. Within this warm, protective huddle, the young goat lets out a soft, contented exhale. The tension drains entirely from its frame, replaced by a heavy, comforting drowsiness. The collective heartbeat of the herd pulses as a steady, soothing rhythm, wrapping the juvenile in a blanket of absolute calm. With the body fully at rest, internal processing takes center stage beneath the cool granite. The juvenile goat engages in rumination, a vital evolutionary adaptation designed for herbivores consuming fibrous alpine plants. Food previously swallowed in haste during the morning foraging sessions begins its secondary, most crucial transformation. Inside the animal's specialized four-chambered stomach, the largest compartment, the rumen, acts as a vast fermentation vat. Microscopic bacteria and protozoa work tirelessly within this warm, fluid-filled sanctuary, breaking down tough cellulose walls that no mammalian enzyme could digest alone. To aid this microbial breakdown, the juvenile undergoes the quiet process of regurgitation. A compact ball of partially digested matter, known as cud, travels smoothly back up the esophagus to the mouth. Here, the juvenile's powerful lower jaw begins a rhythmic, circular chewing motion. 40 to 50 steady jaw movements grind the fibrous cud against the dental pad of the upper jaw, further reducing the particle size and saturating the plant matter with mineral-rich saliva. This meticulous re-chewing increases the surface area for microbial fermentation, ensuring maximum nutrient extraction from the sparse mountain flora. Swallowed once more, the finer material passes into the reticulum, omasum, and finally, the true stomach, the abomasum. This continuous, circular journey of nourishment happens entirely in the background, a silent metabolic engine fueling growth. The steady, hypnotic sound of rhythmic chewing blends with the soft rustling of alpine brush outside, creating a soothing auditory cadence that lulls the young goat deeper into comfort. While the young goat rests peacefully in the shadows, an invisible world thrives within. This bustling microscopic ecosystem inside the rumen operates continuously, completely unnoticed by the resting herd. Trillions of specialized bacteria, fungi, and protozoa inhabit this warm, oxygen-free sanctuary, working in absolute synergy. Because mammals lack the specific enzymes required to dissolve tough plant cellulose, these tiny symbionts perform the essential alchemy. They secrete cellulase, an enzyme that systematically unravels the stubborn beta-acetyl linkages of plant cell walls, unlocking the dense carbohydrates trapped inside. As the fermentation broth gently churns, these microorganisms feast on the complex fibers, breaking them down into simple volatile fatty acids. These valuable acids are then absorbed directly through the rumen wall, entering the bloodstream to supply over 70% of the juvenile's total energy requirements. Furthermore, as the microbes multiply and eventually pass further down the digestive tract, they provide an invaluable source of high-quality microbial protein, fueling the rapid muscle and skeletal growth characteristic of this juvenile life stage. This internal biological furnace generates a gentle, steady warmth, helping maintain the animal's core body temperature even as the mountain air begins to cool in the late afternoon. It is a masterclass in biological efficiency, transforming coarse, unyielding alpine grasses into vital fuel while the animal simply rests. The vibrant, industrious activity within contrasts sharply with the serene exterior, offering a quiet reminder of the complex machinery required to thrive in these elevated heights. Even in deep relaxation, the herd never fully drops its guard. High-altitude living demands a constant, quiet vigilance, transforming absolute stillness into an exercise in passive environmental awareness. While many individuals rest with their eyes softly closed, slipping into restorative slumber, the collective body remains brilliantly engineered for security. Different herd members lie facing varying directions. Some peer toward the sloping meadow below, others monitor the rocky ridge above, and a few watch the narrow granite corridor behind them. Together, they create an overlapping 360-degree sphere of sensory watchfulness. Nothing escapes this shared network of attention. A pair of sensitive ears flicks instinctively backward to pinpoint the faint, bouncing sound of a distant falling pebble, filtering out the background hum of buzzing summer insects. Nostrils twitch delicately, catching the shifting thermal currents of mountain air to sample distant scents carried on the breeze. Even the juvenile goat, resting safely in the center of the cluster, absorbs this collective state of calm readiness. Through gentle osmosis, the young animal learns the subtle body language of herd security, a sudden stiffening of a neck muscle, a synchronized turn of a head, or a low, resonant breath that signals mild curiosity rather than alarm. This shared watchfulness requires no frantic energy, only a profound, instinctual attunement to the rhythms of the wilderness. It is a biological partnership where safety is multiplied by numbers, allowing every individual to truly rest without ever truly being vulnerable. In this sheltered space beneath the ancient boulders, the juvenile learns that deep peace and quiet watchfulness walk hand in hand. As the afternoon advances, the fierce glare of the high-altitude sun begins to soften, casting long, elegant shadows from the granite boulders across the cooling Alpine meadow. The heavy, warm air of peak daylight surrenders to a gentle, refreshing mountain breeze that whispers through the ripening summer grasses. The shared quiet of the resting herd begins to gently shift. One by one, the adult goats cease their rhythmic rumination, swallowing their final portions of thoroughly processed cud as their metabolisms transition away from core digestive conservation. Sensing the collective awakening, the juvenile goat stretches its slender legs outward in a graceful motion, arching its back and exhaling a soft, contented sigh. It rises from the cool, stony ground with a light, rippling shake of its coat, shedding any remaining dust from the resting place. The juvenile's muscles, fully recovered and fueled by the efficient energy extraction of its four-chambered stomach, now pulse with a quiet, renewed vitality. Around the shaded overhang, ears twitch toward the brightening landscape, and eyes blink open to meet the golden light of the fading day. The passive, circular vigilance that kept the herd secure through the heat yields smoothly to a more active, outward curiosity. The high-altitude day is far from over, and as the shadows continue to stretch across the stone, the juvenile stands ready to rejoin the community, stepping forward into the cool, playful hours that traditionally greet the evening mountain air. High above the timberline, where the jagged peaks of the Alpine plateau scrape the vast, open sky, the oppressive heat of the summer afternoon begins to yield. Long, amber rays stretch horizontally across the undulating meadows, painting the dwarf sedges and mountain avens in shades of burnished gold. The air, thin and crisp, carries the faint, sweet scent of sun-warmed granite and cooling earth. Far down the valley, the solitary chime of a grazing bell drifts upward on a gentle evening wind, blending with the steady, soothing hum of chirping insects settling into their twilight rhythms. For hours, the adolescent goats have remained motionless in the shadow of weathered boulders, conserving their energy through the heat of the day. But as the shadows lengthen and the temperature drops, a subtle shift ripples through the herd. One by one, the young ones stir. A yearling stretches its forelegs far out in front, arching its spine in a long, satisfying yawn before shaking off the heavy warmth of the afternoon. This awakening marks a vital transition in their daily cycle. The resting phase gives way to an instinctive surge of kinetic energy. Muscles that have been relaxed in digestion now prep for action, primed by dropping ambient temperatures that signal the ideal window for exertion. Soft hoofbeats rustle against the alpine grasses as the peers gather, their eyes bright in the fading sunlight. They nudge one another gently, trading soft, inquiring bleats that echo quietly across the plateau. The evening has begun, and the meadow awaits their movement. Without warning, the stillness shatters into an explosion of pure kinetic joy. A young buck launches himself straight upward, defying gravity with a sudden vertical bound that carries him a meter clear of the turf. In mid-air, he executes a graceful, effortless twist, landing with all four hooves bunched tightly together on the precise crest of a weathered slab of granite. This is not mere amusement, it is a profound biological rehearsal. Every gravity-defying leap and sideways kick is an essential workshop for the adolescent musculoskeletal system. As these high-energy impacts ripple up through the limbs, The sudden mechanical loading stimulates bone mineral deposition, actively increasing bone density in the developing skeleton. Muscle fibers contract explosively, building the endurance and strength required to navigate treacherous mountain terrain later in life. Simultaneously, these acrobatic maneuvers fine-tune proprioception, the body's internal sense of self-movement and spatial orientation. The goats must calculate distance, velocity, and landing coordinates in fractions of a second. Their specialized two-toed hooves, featuring hard outer rims and soft, rubbery inner pads, flex independently to grip the uneven stone, absorbing the shock of re-entry with remarkable biomechanical efficiency. Soon, the contagion of movement spreads. Another adolescent springs skyward, mirroring the first, followed by a tumbling cascade of bounding bodies across the meadow. They twist, kick, and bound through the amber light, their breath pluming softly in the cooling air as their bodies channel the exuberant energy of youth into the architecture of future survival. As the exuberant racing slows to a gentle walk, the open meadow becomes a quiet training ground for social diplomacy. Two young females pause near a sun-warmed boulder, dropping their heads and turning to face one another with deliberate grace. Slowly, purposefully, they rise up onto their hind legs, balancing for a long, quiet moment like dancers testing their poise against the darkening sky. With soft, rhythmic thuds, their foreheads meet. There is no aggression in the touch, only the dull, hollow clack of developing horn buds resting gently together. This mock sparring is a vital evolutionary rehearsal, allowing the adolescents to test their strength and practice the ritualized postures of adult herd dominance without real consequence. Through these repeated, harmless clashes, they establish subtle lines of social recognition within the peer group, learning the boundaries of one another's personal space and forging the early ties of a lifelong hierarchy. One of the bucks lowers his front hooves back to the turf, shaking his head with a light, playful flick of his ears. His sparring partner responds with a soft, inquiring bleat, leaning in to rub her cheek against his neck in a gesture of effortless reconciliation. These gentle social bonds are as essential to survival on the exposed Alpine plateau as physical stamina, ensuring the herd moves as a unified, cooperative whole when winter eventually returns. As the golden light softens into deepening lavender, the pair stands shoulder to shoulder, breathing in the cool evening breeze and feeling the steady, reassuring warmth of each other's presence in the gathering dusk. A sudden shared impulse ripples through the resting circle. Without warning, the young buck spins toward the eastern ridge, kicking his heels high in a burst of kinetic energy. His movement acts as a silent signal, and the entire peer group erupts into a spontaneous, high-speed dash across the plateau. The meadow becomes a living tapestry of motion. Propelled by powerful hindquarters, the adolescents weave effortlessly around lichen-encrusted boulders and leap over shallow depressions in the turf. Their flight is a masterclass in proprioception, the internal awareness of body position in space. Every muscle and tendon works in perfect concert as they navigate the uneven terrain at a gallop. There is an astonishing synchronization to their flight. When the lead runner swerves sharply to the left, the trailing goats mirror the trajectory with fractions of a second precision, utilizing shared momentum to sweep across the alpine slope as a single, fluid wave. Soft hoofbeats strike the cool earth in a rhythmic, muffled tattoo, underscored by the gentle whisper of rustling grasses brushing against their flanks. This rapid traversal tests their cardiovascular stamina and fine-tunes the lightning-fast reflexes required to evade high-altitude predators. Yet, despite the breathless velocity, there is a serene grace to the chase. They move not out of fear, but from the sheer, uncomplicated joy of physical prowess. As they reach the far boundary of the plateau, the frantic pace naturally dissolves back into a rhythmic canter, then a trot, and finally a relaxed walk. Their chests rise and fall in unison, drawing in the crisp, soothing evening air as they begin to drift back toward the shelter of the sleeping ridge. The fiery rim of the sun dips below the western horizon, washing the Alpine plateau in a soft, amethyst twilight. As the ambient temperature falls, the frenetic energy of the chase gently softens. The adolescents slow their pace to a quiet walk, their heavy breathing gradually returning to a steady, rhythmic cadence. They drift together in a natural, sheltered hollow, gathering close to share the residual warmth of the day. A gentle evening wind carries the distant, mellow chime of a grazing bell from the valley far below, blending with the fading hum of chirping insects settling in for the night. Exhaustion gives way to tenderness as the herd dynamics shift from playful competition to restorative quiet. They engage in allo-grooming, mutual social licking that reaches the hard-to-reach places behind the ears and along the spine. This rhythmic, repetitive licking serves a vital biological purpose, releasing endorphins that soothe tired muscles and reduce the physiological stress of intense exercise. Noses softly touch, and flanks press together in quiet solidarity. Through this gentle tactile connection, the peer group reinforces its social bonds, smoothing over any minor rivalries sparked during the evening's mock sparring. A soft, contented bleat murmurs through the group, barely audible over the rustling alpine grasses. Gradually, the standing forms sink downward onto folded legs. One by one, the young goats tuck their hooves beneath their warm bodies, exhaling long, contented sighs. Muscles relax deeply, and eyelids grow heavy as the cool mountain dark embraces the resting meadow, promising peaceful dreams under a canopy of emerging stars. The vast alpine sky transforms into a velvety expanse of deep indigo, dotted with the first pale flickers of distant starlight. Below, the hollow remains bathed in the quiet stillness of the descending night. The adolescent goats have found their resting places, arranged in a protective, curved formation that shields them from the cool drafts sweeping across the plateau. Their breathing is slow and synchronized, a gentle cadence that matches the rustling of the alpine grasses just outside their sheltered circle. As their bodies cool from the vigorous activity of the evening, their metabolisms adjust to the resting phase of the circadian rhythm, conserving the energy needed for tomorrow's challenges. Soft coats rise and fall in a tranquil rhythm, absorbing the residual warmth of the earth beneath them. Absolute peace settles over the meadow. The distant grazing bell has fallen silent, and the chirping insects have yielded to the quiet of the high mountains. Every muscle is completely relaxed, from the strong hooves tucked neatly away to the heavy, drooping eyelids that drift shut one by one. Wrapped in the secure embrace of the herd, the young goats surrender to sleep, resting deeply beneath the quiet, watchful gaze of the midnight stars. High upon the jagged spine of the high ridge, the vivid, fiery amber of the alpine sunset slowly dissolves into soft, velvety indigo shadows. Day surrenders to night, and the mountain landscape exhales a long, cooling sigh. The adolescent goat stands near the precipitous edge of the rocky ridge, chest rising and falling as he breathes in the crisp, mineral-scented night air. Far below, the vast valleys fade into mysterious pools of darkness, while the upper peaks remain bathed in the last faint whisper of twilight. With the fading light, a profound hush settles over the heights. The gentle mountain wind whispers softly through the sparse alpine grasses, creating a soothing, whispering wave that ripples across the slope. Somewhere in the deep canyon far beneath the ridge, a distant night bird calls out with a melodic, melancholy note, its song swallowed quickly by the vastness of the midnight air. The heat stored in the sun-baked granite rocks during the harsh afternoon begins to dissipate rapidly into the clear atmosphere, reminding the young goat of the delicate balance of his high-altitude home. Yet his growing coat, thickened by the vibrant cycle of summer, provides a comfortable thermal barrier against the approaching chill. He shakes his head gently, letting out a single, low, contented bleat that vanishes into the quiet expanse. Standing poised against the darkening sky, the young animal feels the ancient, steady rhythm of the mountain taking hold. The world grows still, and the brilliant summer stars awaken one by one, forming a glittering, silent canopy overhead. Drawn by an ancient, unspoken rhythm, the members of the maternal herd begin to drift together from various corners of the rocky slope. They converge within a natural stone alcove, a sheltered recess carved by centuries of wind and frost into the cliffside. Here, the gentle midnight wind is blocked by thick granite walls, creating a pocket of still, protected air. As they settle, the goats press close to one another in a tightly clustered formation. This communal grouping is more than a social comfort. It is a vital strategy for thermoregulation and safety. By huddling side by side, their bodies share and conserve the warmth radiating from the earth and from one another, guarding against the sharp drop in nocturnal alpine temperatures. The adolescent navigates carefully through the shifting maze of familiar flanks, seeking out the comforting space between his mother and a larger, steady-nerved doe. He lowers his forelegs, tucks his hindquarters neatly beneath his frame, and lets out a soft, satisfied sigh as his weight settles comfortably upon the cool, dry earth. Surrounded by the breathing forms of the herd, the young goat feels a profound sense of security wash over him. The collective presence of so many watchful bodies creates a living fortress, lowering individual vigilance while heightening the collective awareness of the group. Each animal rests easy, knowing that any subtle shift in the air or unusual vibration will be sensed by the cluster as a whole. In this quiet sanctuary of stone and fir, the herd dissolves into a tapestry of peaceful rest, cradled by the whispering mountain. High above the sleeping valleys, the canopy of summer stars casts a soft, silvery glow across the jagged alpine ridge. In this dim illumination, the adolescent goat rests comfortably, yet his eyes remain remarkable instruments of midnight awareness. Unlike many predators that possess rounded lenses, his eyes feature striking horizontal, rectangular pupils. As twilight deepens into night, these unique apertures dilate widely, expanding to capture every available photon of starlight bouncing off the distant granite faces. This horizontal pupil shape grants the young goat an extraordinary, sweeping panoramic field of view that extends nearly 320 degrees around his head. Without needing to lift his chin or turn his ears from the resting cluster, he can survey the sweeping cliffs and the shadowed slopes stretching away below him. The panoramic design allows light to enter preferentially along the horizontal axis while restricting the blinding glare from the overhead midday sun, perfectly balancing daylight grazing with nocturnal vigilance. Even as his eyelids grow heavy and the rhythmic, slow swaying of his breath matches the gentle rustling of alpine grasses outside the alcove, this biological marvel continues to work. The wide-angle lens absorbs the celestial map overhead, registering the slow rotation of constellations and any minute shift in the surrounding shadows. It is a quiet, continuous watchfulness wired deep into his ancestry. Through the silent lens of these remarkable eyes, the dark mountain world is never truly hidden, but rather softened into a vast, luminous landscape of peaceful, starlit slumber. Beneath the quiet canopy of stars, another silent rhythm takes hold within the resting herd. Even in the deep stillness of the midnight hour, the adolescent goat's body remains softly active. He exhales a slow, warm breath into the crisp mountain air and tucks his slender legs closer beneath his fleece, beginning the ancient, methodical process of rumination. Earlier in the day, sweet alpine grasses and tender flowering shoots were swallowed hastily and stored within the vast, multi-chambered fermentation vat known as the rumen. Now, safely sheltered within the protective embrace of the rocky alcove. That fibrous vegetation is gently brought back up to the mouth in small, manageable portions called cuds. With eyes softly half closed against the starlight, the young goat begins to chew again. The movement of his jaw is steady, rhythmic, and unhurried, a slow side-to-side grinding motion that fills the quiet night with a comforting, familiar sound. This continuous mechanical breakdown is essential for survival, multiplying the surface area of the plant matter so specialized microbes within his digestive system can extract every last drop of stored summer nourishment. The soft, repetitive sound of chewing blends harmoniously with the gentle sigh of the midnight breeze whispering past the granite stones. It is a deeply soothing, meditative cycle that requires no urgency. As he grinds each mouthful, saliva rich in natural buffers joins the cud, aiding digestion and stabilizing the internal warmth of his growing body against the cooling high-altitude air. In the peaceful dark, this quiet digestive industry continues undisturbed, mirroring the steady, enduring pulse of the mountain ecosystem itself. Yet, complete surrender to sleep is a luxury shared only with constant vigilance. Though resting deeply, the herd remains intimately attuned to the surrounding wilderness, maintaining a baseline of sensory awareness against potential night threats. The adolescent goat pauses his rhythmic chewing for a fraction of a second, his senses instantly sharpening. A sensitive, velvety ear swivels independently, catching the faint, dry rustle of a midnight wind brushing through distant alpine grasses. Without opening his heavy eyelids, his mind processes the tactile information carried on the air currents. Goats possess an acute perception of their environment, a survival adaptation honed over generations on these exposed ridges. Even while resting, their nervous systems remain partially dialed into the landscape. A sudden drop in barometric pressure, the subtle scent of shifting predators miles down the valley, or an unfamiliar snap of a twig will immediately rouse the entire assembly. From time to time, an older nanny emits an occasional low, guttural bleat, a soft vocal anchor that reassures the youngsters in the dark. In response, the young goat exhales a gentle puff of air through his nostrils with a faint, soft snort, acknowledging the collective safety of the group before settling back into his drowsy state. This continuous, instinctive watchfulness flows like an invisible current through the huddled bodies, binding them together. They do not sleep in absolute isolation, but rather in a shared cocoon of awareness. The natural world breathes around them, and through every twitching muscle and attuned ear, they breathe right back, resting securely beneath the infinite, silent watch of the summer stars. Gradually, the brief wave of alertness dissolves back into the soft, heavy pull of night. The mountain world settles into a state of profound, restorative serenity under sparkling summer constellations. High above the sleeping valleys, the adolescent goat surrenders to the deep, healing sleep required to fuel his growing bones and expanding spirit. His heavy eyelids close fully and his breathing deepens into a slow, steady rhythm, matching the ancient, unhurried cadence of the wilderness around him. Biologically, this slumber is carefully balanced. Like many prey species, ungulates experience polyphasic sleep, short, frequent cycles of rest rather than long, unbroken hours of deep unconsciousness. Even as he drifts into quiet, rapid eye movement sleep, his body processes the day's nourishment, continuing the vital work of rumination with slow, internal grace. The gentle shifting of a neighbor nearby provides a soothing, tactile anchor, reminding him that he is cradled safely within the collective warmth of the maternal herd. Above them, the celestial canopy wheels slowly across the velvet sky. The summer wind softens to a mere whisper, brushing coolly over dense fur that has adapted to regulate body heat through fluctuating alpine temperatures. Every heartbeat is a quiet testament to resilience, a small life cradled by the immense, ancient stone of the ridge. Slowly, the entire mountainside grows still, wrapped in a blanket of starlight and peaceful mountain slumber, resting securely until the first pale promise of dawn begins to paint the eastern horizon. The first pale fingers of dawn stretch across the lower hillsides, painting the rugged terrain in soft shades of amber, copper, and sunlit gold. A crisp autumn wind whispers through the valley, carrying the scent of dry earth and cooling stone. Where vibrant summer greens once dominated, a quiet transformation has taken hold. The grasses have cured to a rich biscuit brown, and the scrub oak and wild briars wear crowns of bronze. Out of the morning mist, a young adult goat steps gracefully onto the slope. His hooves make soft, rhythmic taps against the weathered rock, accompanied by the gentle rustle of dry leaves beneath his feet. He pauses, lifting his head to test the air. The atmosphere is undeniably different now, lighter, sharper, and touched with the unmistakable chill of the changing season. This transition in the environment calls for an instinctive shift in behavior. For months, the herd has enjoyed the abundance of tender, succulent herbaceous growth found higher on the peaks. But as the daylight shortens and the herbaceous plants fade away, the survival of the ruminant depends upon adaptability. The lower scrublands offer a new bounty, one rich in resilience and hidden nutrition. With calm, deliberate movements, the goat surveys the sweeping landscape before him. Far off in the distance, a solitary bird calls out through the quiet morning air. He lowers his muzzle toward a tangled thicket of woody shrubs, ready to embrace the rhythm of the autumn harvest, his body quietly preparing for the cooler months yet to come. The shift from the open meadows to the brush-filled slopes highlights a profound ecological distinction in how herbivores sustain themselves. While a grazer moves with its head bowed continuously to the earth, sweeping low to harvest the uniform carpet of grasses, a browser takes on a far more dynamic role in the ecosystem. This young adult is not merely a consumer of the ground. He is a selective forager, navigating a vertical world of woody stems, shrubs, and low-hanging tree branches. This mixed feeding strategy grants an extraordinary evolutionary advantage, where strict grazers find themselves limited as autumn strips the earth of tender green shoots. The goat possesses the physiological versatility to look upward. He surveys the complex architecture of a wild blackberry briar and a scrub oak, seeing not a uniform field, but a mosaic of individual morsels. Every twig, unfolding bud, and patch of nutrient-dense bark represents a potential source of sustenance. By lifting his gaze from the soil, the animal accesses a vertical pantry untouched by ground-bound competitors. He reaches for the higher, sun-kissed tips of deciduous shrubs, where late-season sugars remain concentrated in the woody tissue. This transition reduces direct competition for dwindling ground vegetation and allows the herd to drift seamlessly through habitats that change with the elevation. It is a graceful dance of height and selection, woven into the very fabric of the changing season, where every reach of the neck and deliberate choice secures another quiet moment of survival in the crisp autumn air. To harvest this elevated, woody bounty, the young adult relies on a marvel of specialized mouth anatomy. He approaches a gnarled hawthorn branch, his muzzle hovering just inches from the tangled wood. Unlike horses or cattle, whose broad, stiff lips are designed for sweeping up grass, this goat possesses a remarkably mobile, deeply cleft upper lip, covered in sensitive tactile hairs. This prehensile lip acts almost like a pair of gentle fingers, parting the stiff autumn growth with quiet precision. He extends this velvety lip forward, testing the texture and temperature of a sun-warmed stem. Working in harmony with the lip is a nimble, muscular tongue. Together, these tools perform a delicate sorting mechanism. The tongue reaches out, curving around a cluster of drying leaves while skillfully mapping the architecture of the branch. When sharp thorns or rigid, unpalatable spines present themselves, The sensitive nerves within the muzzle instantly signal the brain, prompting a subtle adjustment in placement. The goat bypasses the defenses entirely, sliding his mouth along the slender twig. His lower incisors press upward against a hard dental pad, cleanly shearing the tender tip while leaving the defensive spikes untouched. With a slight tilt of his head, he strips the remaining nutritious bark, his teeth scraping the cambium layer where late-season sugars and vital minerals are stored beneath the surface. Every movement is deliberate and unhurried, a masterclass in efficiency born of millions of years of evolutionary refinement. Nothing is wasted, and no energy is spent fighting useless armor. In the quiet morning calm, the animal simply tastes the landscape, selecting only the finest morsels before gently releasing the branch to spring back into place. Once the fibrous harvest is gathered, a different kind of alchemy begins deep within the young adult's body. The food slides down the long esophagus into the largest chamber of the four-chambered ruminant stomach, the rumen. This vast, warm fermentation vat acts as a living ecosystem, holding a dense population of specialized bacteria and protozoa. These microorganisms possess the vital enzymes needed to break down tough cellulose and lignin, complex plant structures that herbivores with simpler digestive tracts cannot digest on their own. As the morning chill settles more deeply into the hillside, the goat pauses his steady movement and settles his weight onto soft, folded legs. Resting peacefully against the amber earth, he begins the slow, rhythmic process of rumination. A soft, undulating ripple moves upward along his neck as a compact bolus of partially digested woody material, known as the cud, is gently regurgitated back into his mouth. With eyes half closed against the rising sun, he chews the cud with a slow, grinding lateral motion of his jaw. This prolonged mechanical breakdown increases the surface area of the tough autumn browse, allowing the microscopic flora in the stomach even better access to the remaining nutrients. After dozens of unhurried chews, the softened mass is swallowed once more, descending into the reticulum, omasum, and finally the true stomach, the abomasum. Here, proteins and unlocked sugars are fully absorbed, transforming coarse twigs and dry leaves into the rich energy reserves needed to sustain him through the colder months ahead. With his rumination complete, the young adult unfolds his limbs and rises once more to greet the late morning light. The foraging resumes, a steady and methodical progression through the golden scrub. Every mouthful of woody browse now serves a profound biological purpose, far beyond the immediate satisfaction of hunger. The dense, fibrous stems and nutrient-rich bark are quietly converted into rich layers of internal fat and a dense, insulating winter coat that slowly thickens beneath his guard hairs. This seasonal weight gain is an essential survival strategy. High upon these rugged hills, the coming months will bring bitter winds and sparse sustenance, demanding endurance that only these autumn reserves can provide. Every twig stripped of its bark and every resilient leaf consumed represents a vital deposit in a physiological savings account, built entirely through patient, deliberate labor under the pale sun. The hillside remains peaceful as the morning transitions toward noon. A gentle gust of crisp autumn wind rustles the dry leaves overhead, carrying the earthy scent of curing grasses and damp stone. The goat pauses beside a low-hanging branch, his breath pluming softly in the cooling air. He surveys the sweeping amber landscape below with a quiet, steady gaze, perfectly attuned to the rhythms of the changing season. Content and well-nourished, he takes another slow step forward, anchored deeply in the calm, enduring pulse of the wild earth. The young adult goat lifts his head gently from a sturdy oak shrub, the rhythmic movement of his jaw slowing as he pauses to rest. A pale amber leaf clings momentarily to his muzzle before drifting down into the brush. He stands completely still, chewing slowly and methodically, allowing the final chambers of his complex stomach to gently process the nourishing fiber of the morning's harvest. Around him, the herd settles into a similar quiet stillness across the lower scrub-covered hillside. The crisp autumn wind softens, whispering gently through the crowns of aging trees and sending a cascade of dry, golden leaves rustling down the rocky slope. In the distance, a lone migratory bird calls out softly, its melodic notes dissolving into the vast, tranquil expanse of the valley below. The vibrant landscape stretches outward in breathtaking shades of copper, amber, and chestnut. Every contour of the earth seems bathed in the warm, diffused glow of midday, signaling a peaceful pause in the daily routine of survival. This serene atmosphere bridges the golden warmth of the season and the quiet physiological preparations for the colder months ahead. With a soft, contented exhale, the goat gazes out over the rolling terrain. His heavy winter coat, already thickening against his frame, ripples slightly in the cool breeze. He remains anchored in the quiet harmony of the wilderness, fully attuned to the slow, enduring rhythm of the changing world. The hillside grows deeply still, wrapping the resting herd in a profound, restful peace as the afternoon slowly unfolds. A pale, silvery sun rises slowly over the high-altitude ridgeline, casting a cool, diffused light across the expansive, wind-swept hillside. Autumn has tightened its quiet grip upon the Alpine world, bringing with it a deep, resonant stillness. The morning air is remarkably crisp, carrying the faint, clean scent of frost-touched stone and drying grasses. On a sheltered ledge of gray limestone, the young adult goat stirs from a night of deep, restorative sleep. With a slow, deliberate grace, long limbs unfold against the cool earth. A soft exhale escapes the muzzle, forming a brief, delicate plume of mist in the freezing air. Every breath marks a subtle physiological transition. The shorter photoperiods of autumn signal the pineal gland deep within the brain to orchestrate a profound internal shift, preparing the mammalian body for the severe months ahead. Around the resting animal, the ambient sounds of the waking wilderness weave a gentle, lulling tapestry. The crisp autumn wind whispers softly through the sparse, golden-brown bunch grasses, accompanied by the dry, rustling rattle of fallen leaves tumbling across the rocks. From somewhere down the sloping meadow comes the clear, resonant chime of a distant grazing bell, fading softly on the breeze. The goat blinks against the low-angled morning light, shifting its weight with a quiet, muffled scrape of hooves on stone. Above, a solitary alpine bird calls out in a faint, melodic trill before melting back into the vast expanse of open sky. The landscape rests in a peaceful, unhurried rhythm, bathed in the pale, tranquil hues of the new day. Beneath the weathered exterior of the outer coat, a quiet biological masterpiece unfolds across the skin. As daylight hours wane, specialized dermal cells receive hormonal cues to initiate the growth of a secondary layer, transforming the goat's fleece into a dual defense system. The coarse, rigid outer guard hairs, measuring several inches in length, remain firmly anchored, acting as a durable weather shield designed to shed moisture, block the biting autumn wind, and deflect abrasive branches. Yet it is beneath this protective canopy that the true marvel of alpine thermoregulation takes place. Deep within the hair follicles, microscopic secondary roots awaken, rapidly producing millions of ultrafine, crimped fibers known as the cashmere undercoat. Unlike the straight guard hairs, these delicate underfibers possess thousands of microscopic air pockets. This dense, interlocking matrix traps warm air against the skin, creating an impenetrable thermal barrier that rivals the finest insulation known to nature. The goat lowers its head, nuzzling against its flank to inspect the transformation. With each slow, deliberate sweep of the rough tongue, Natural lanolin oils secreted by sebaceous glands are meticulously distributed across the expanding fleece. This nourishing wax coats every individual strand, lending the thick pelt a subtle, water-resistant sheen while sealing in body heat against the steadily chilling morning breeze. Every square inch of the hide thickens systematically, building a resilient defense against the approaching snows. High upon the exposed ridge, a sudden gust of crisp autumn wind sweeps across the landscape, carrying the distant, musical chime of a grazing bell from deep within the valley. The young goat stands completely still, anchoring its weight against the rising pressure of the chill air. Without this miraculous dual-layered coat, the sudden drop in ambient temperature would rapidly drain the body's precious core heat. Instead, the brilliant architecture of mammalian thermoregulation performs its silent duty. The newly sprouted undercoat serves as a sophisticated cellular trap. The ultrafine cashmere fibers create a labyrinth of millions of microscopic dead air spaces directly against the skin. As the goat's metabolic warmth radiates outward, it enters this dense matrix and becomes securely trapped, forming a personal thermal greenhouse that completely isolates the body from the freezing elements outside. Meanwhile, the longer, coarse guard hairs stand tall, functioning as a windbreak that shields the delicate insulating layer from being compressed or displaced by the blustery weather. Physics and biology merge seamlessly on the mountainside. Heat transfer via convection is drastically reduced as the wind glides harmlessly over the waterproof outer canopy, leaving the trapped warmth undisturbed within the depths of the fleece. The young goat exhales softly, a gentle plume of warm breath dissolving into the clear morning light. Secure in its newly fortified skin, the animal absorbs the quiet stability of the Alpine world, perfectly adapted to meet the changing season with effortless grace. The transformation happening beneath the surface requires an immense biological investment. To manufacture this dense architectural marvel of insulation, the young goat must continuously fuel its internal furnace. Moving deliberately across the rocky slope, the animal lowers its head to graze upon hardy, frost-touched mountain shrubs and the resilient remnants of alpine flora. Every bite of fibrous twigs and cured autumn grasses delivers essential proteins and amino acids, the fundamental building blocks needed for keratin synthesis and rapid hair follicle development. The process of growing a winter coat demands extraordinary caloric intake. As the goat strips nutritious bark and tender leaves from low-lying woody stems, its digestive system works tirelessly to convert tough plant matter into pure metabolic energy. Specialized gut microbes ferment this stubborn cellulose, unlocking rich nutrients that are rapidly distributed through the bloodstream directly to the skin. With each rhythmic sweep of its jaw, the young adult secures the vital resources required to sustain both daily survival and the strenuous demands of seasonal preparation. There is a quiet, steady rhythm to the feeding behavior, perfectly synchronized with the gentle rustle of dry leaves tumbling across the hillside. The crisp morning air carries the faint, clean scent of crushed sage and dried pine, mingling with the earthy musk of the herd. By maintaining this steady intake of nourishment, the goat quietly builds the internal strength necessary to weather the approaching frozen months, one mindful bite at a time. Nutritional fuel is only the first step in constructing the winter defense. The newly grown fibers require constant care to function at their peak. Pausing from the morning forage, the young goat seeks out a weathered slab of granite exposed to the pale sun. It approaches the stone and begins a slow, deliberate scratch, pressing its flank firmly against the rough, mineral-stained surface. This rhythmic friction does more than simply relieve an itch. It massages the dermal layer beneath, stimulating the sebaceous glands to release a rich golden sebum. As the animal shifts its weight, rubbing first one side and then the other, these natural oils coat every strand of the thickening fleece. The lipids create a hydrophobic barrier, sealing the dense cashmere undercoat and the longer guard hairs against approaching autumn rains and heavy frost. Without this vital waterproofing, moisture could penetrate to the skin, drastically reducing the thermal efficiency of the trapped air pockets. Nearby, another member of the herd joins in a moment of mutual grooming, gently nibbling along the base of the young goat's neck where teeth cannot easily reach. This social tending further distributes the protective oils and cements the calming bonds of the group against the vast, open skyline. A soft, contented sigh escapes the young adult as it stands bathed in the cool light. The crisp autumn wind rustles the surrounding dry leaves, carrying away the loose debris of the old summer coat while leaving the newly fortified winter armor sleek, clean, and perfectly prepared for whatever weather the changing season may bring. Basking upon a wide, sun-drenched slab of granite, the young goat lets its eyelids drift half-closed. This elevated resting place acts as a natural solar collector, soaking up the gentle heat of the midday sun and radiating it directly inward. Beneath the outer barrier of coarse guard hairs, the newly expanded cashmere undercoat holds this precious thermal energy securely against the skin. The physiological transition of autumn is now fully underway. Every follicle is engaged in this quiet alchemy of survival, transforming simple nutrition into a complex, living blanket of warmth. Around the resting animal, the rest of the herd settles into a peaceful stillness across the wind-swept ridge. The crisp mountain air carries only the faint, rhythmic sounds of gentle chewing and the occasional soft shifting of hooves upon stone. Social hierarchies soften in the warm midday calm. Older, experienced adults lie close by, their own heavy winter fleeces blending seamlessly into the stony grays and browns of the Alpine slope. A stray gust of autumn wind sweeps gently across the ridge, rustling the dry, golden grasses below. Yet the young goat remains entirely undisturbed by the chill. Its body, beautifully adapted through millennia of evolutionary refinement, maintains a perfect internal equilibrium amidst the dropping seasonal temperatures. Breathing slowly and deeply, the young adult rests its head upon its forelegs, surrendering to the profound tranquility of the high-altitude afternoon. The vibrant energy of the morning forage fades into a serene, restorative quiet, wrapping the entire herd in a blanket of absolute peace as the day slowly begins its long, gentle descent toward evening. The late afternoon sun dips low over the terraced mountain slopes, casting a warm, amber glow across the rugged landscape. Deciduous brush, dressed in rich shades of copper and gold, yields beneath a gentle breeze that carries the crisp, clean scent of approaching autumn. With every slow step through the undergrowth, a soft, dry crunch of fallen leaves echoes softly against the stony earth, punctuated now and then by the faint, rhythmic metallic clink of distant bells carried from the valley below. Here, amid the maze of ancient stone walls and cascading slopes, the prime adult goat moves with unhurried grace. Re-entering the core of the herd during this peaceful foraging hour, the animal feels the familiar, steady energy of the group. The social fabric of these mountain goats, Capra Egagris hircus, is a finely tuned network built over seasons, maintained through quiet recognition rather than constant struggle. Low, gentle bleats ripple through the brush as companions acknowledge one another, reinforcing bonds forged in the high meadows. The air is cool, yet the collective presence of the herd radiates a deep, comforting warmth. Each individual knows its place in the established community, allowing for a shared calmness that settles deeply into the mountain air. As shadows lengthen across the rustling foliage, the goat pauses beside a low-hanging branch, inhaling the rich aromas of the forest floor, entirely at peace within the rhythm of the gathering herd. This intricate web of coexistence is governed by the architecture of rank, a stable dominance hierarchy that underpins every movement within the herd. Far from being a system of constant conflict, a mature ungulate society relies on well-defined social standing to conserve precious energy. An individual's position is shaped by a combination of visible traits, chronological age, overall body mass, and the impressive development of horn architecture. Larger horns, deeply ridged and sweeping gracefully backward, serve as natural badges of status, communicating experience and vigor without requiring a single physical contest. Within this hierarchy, stability is the ultimate energy saver. When every member intuitively understands their standing, the herd avoids the metabolic cost of frequent aggression. Prime adults occupy stable positions near the center, acting as anchors of the community. Subordinates recognize these cues instantly, yielding space with subtle, calming body language that diffuses potential tension before it can arise. This predictable structure lowers baseline stress hormones across the entire group, allowing digestion and rest to take precedence over vigilance. As the slanting golden light filters through the autumn canopy, the biological wisdom of the herd becomes quietly apparent. By honoring these subtle boundaries, the goats preserve their physical reserves for the colder months ahead. Every gesture, a tilt of the head, a slight shift in posture, reinforces a peaceful equilibrium, weaving the individual members into a singular, harmonious organism resting softly upon the mountainside. Out among the rustling, deciduous brush, negotiations of rank rarely require raw force. Instead, the prime adult engages in a quiet, archaic dance of posture and geometry designed to test and affirm boundaries. When two mature goats meet near a patch of tender browse, the interaction unfolds with measured, deliberate grace. Rather than launching into full combat, they begin with a lateral display, walking parallel to one another. Each animal stretches its neck and elevates its spine, exaggerating its true physical stature to signal confidence and prime vitality. Should a minor dispute arise over a favored patch of forage, the resolution follows a predictable, peaceful choreography. One goat may employ a slow side-to-side body block, gently pressing its shoulder against a rival to nudge them away from the brush. The response is almost invariably cooperative. The subordinate lowers its chin toward its chest, smoothing its coat and turning slightly away in a classic appeasement posture. This subtle yielding gesture acknowledges rank instantly, neutralizing the tension and allowing both animals to resume chewing without a spike in heart rate. When horn displays do occur, they are remarkably restrained. Two rivals will rise slightly onto their hind legs, bringing their keratinous sheaths together with a hollow, woody clack. Yet there is no violent shoving. The contact is controlled, serving merely as a tactile gauge of strength and weight. Within seconds, the pressure eases. They lower their hooves back to the leaf-strewn earth, shake their heads once, and graze side by side in the calming amber light. Beyond these graceful displays of posture and touch, a parallel language writes itself silently across the terraced landscape, anchored in the biology of scent. Just beneath the base of each ribbed horn lies a specialized network of sebaceous glands, uniquely developed in mature caprines. As the afternoon shadows lengthen, the prime adult approaches a sturdy, low-hanging branch of a deciduous shrub, pausing to tend to this intricate system of chemical messaging. With deliberate care, the goat presses the crown of its head directly against the rough bark. It shifts its weight forward, dragging the glandular skin back and forth along the woody stem. This sweeping motion deposits a complex oily secretion rich in pheromones and volatile fatty acids. For anyone passing by, whether a rival seeking to gauge the local hierarchy or a potential mate reading the microclimate of the herd, this invisible signature speaks volumes. The chemical bouquet broadcasts individual identity, physical vitality, and current social rank with astonishing precision. These scented signposts anchor the herd's collective territory, transforming the rustling brush into a familiar, reassuring map of signals. Each deliberate rub reinforces boundaries without a single hoof being raised in anger, As the oily residue coats the twig, it mingles gently with the earthy scent of autumn leaves and the cool, drifting breeze. The mature goat lingers for a moment, inhaling the lingering traces left by others before stepping quietly away. In this quiet theater of chemistry, the herd remains intimately connected, bound together by whispers written in scent upon the quiet mountain slope. With the chemical boundaries securely refreshed across the terrace slope, the chaotic potential of the afternoon gives way to a profound, collective calm. Harmony settles over the rangeland as the adult goats resume their rhythmic browsing among the rustling deciduous brush. In this mature social network, a sophisticated tolerance defines the shifting spaces between bodies. High-ranking individuals and lower-tier subordinates now share the narrow feeding lanes with remarkable ease, moving together through the crisp autumn foliage without a trace of tension. The mechanics of this peaceful coexistence lie in the herd's acute awareness of personal space and rank. Because every animal's standing was quietly reaffirmed through gentle horn displays and scent markers earlier in the day, there is no longer any need to contest resources. A prime adult reaches gracefully upward, stripping tender leaves from an ash sapling, while a younger, submissive companion nibbles contentedly on fallen twigs just a few inches below. They breathe in unison, the soft crunch of dry leaves and the gentle breeze blending with the low, contented bleats that ripple through the group. As the slanting golden light touches the high peaks, the grazing gradually slows. The herd begins to fold inward, bodies settling against one another in a unified resting formation upon the warm earth. Close proximity, once a potential spark for rivalry, becomes a source of shared warmth and security as the evening chill approaches. Resting side by side, ruminating jaws move in slow, rhythmic syncopation. The social machinery of the herd operates with absolute grace, cradled by the tranquil quiet of the descending mountain night. As the deep amber shadows stretch long and cool across the terraces, the restless energy of the day dissolves completely. The herd transitions gracefully from foraging to its evening posture, seeking out sheltered pockets of earth where residual daytime heat still lingers. One by one, the adult goats tuck their slender legs beneath their robust bodies, folding into neat, compact mounds that mirror the rolling contours of the mountain slope. This collective settling is governed by an innate instinct for safety and conservation. By arranging themselves in a tight, overlapping cluster, the animals optimize their body heat while maintaining an all-around vigilance against potential alpine hazards. In this quiet resting formation, the strict social hierarchy remains visibly respected yet utterly relaxed. High-ranking adults occupy the most sheltered central positions, while peripheral members anchor the outer edges, keeping a calm, watchful eye on the dimming horizon. Even in stillness, the quiet rhythm of the herd continues. The steady, rhythmic motion of rumination takes over, a soothing sound as the goats softly chew their cud, aiding digestion through slow, continuous fermentation in their multi-chambered stomachs. This internal processing creates a gentle, hypnotic cadence that echoes through the gathering dusk. A soft breeze whispers through the rustling deciduous brush, carrying the faint, earthy scent of damp soil, dry leaves, and the warm musk of the resting flock. High above, the distant, metallic clink of a grazing bell drifts down from a neighboring ridge, emphasizing the vast, enveloping peace of the wilderness. One by one, heavy eyelids droop, heads rest softly against flanks, and breathing deepens into a slow, synchronized measure. Enfolded in the secure embrace of their social community, the goats drift into deep, restorative slumber, cradled by the tranquil quiet of the descending night. High upon the steep mountain slopes, the autumn sun hangs low, casting long, amber rays across the rugged terrain. The air cools noticeably as the golden light stretches across the valleys, painting the landscape in deep shades of ochre and bronze. Shadows lengthen softly over the terraced earth, swallowing the heat of the day and leaving behind the rich, earthy aroma of fallen leaves and damp soil. In this tranquil twilight realm, a mature adult goat pauses, absorbing the gentle warmth of the fading sun. Every breath carries the crisp scent of approaching frost, mingled with the sweet decay of autumn foliage. The environment is alive with subtle, soothing sounds. A gentle breeze whispers through the dry brush, stirring a cascade of rustling leaves beneath steady, sure-footed hooves. In the distance, a solitary grazing bell chimes softly, its resonant tone melting into the quiet expanse of the valley. Overhead, evening bird calls drift downward, their melodious notes fading as the day slowly yields to night. This seasonal shift marks a crucial biological transition. As daylight wanes, the physiological drive to forage intensifies. The cooling air signals the body to prepare for the rigorous demands of winter, prompting a vital metabolic adaptation. Beneath the thick, growing coat, subcutaneous fat reserves must be built and sustained to insulate against the freezing months ahead. Every mouthful of vegetation gathered in this amber light is a step toward winter survival, transformed by complex herbivore digestion into essential energy. Standing quietly in the fading illumination, the adult goat feels the rhythm of the changing season, perfectly attuned to the steady, unhurried cadence of the mountain evening. Approaching a sprawling autumn thicket, the mature goat turns its attention to the woody browse that dominates the late-season landscape. Herbaceous plants have long since withered, leaving the hardy shrubs and gnarled bushes as the primary source of daily sustenance. With practiced precision, the animal targets the nutrient-dense tips of deciduous twigs and the tender, nutrient-rich inner bark. Feeding mechanics here are a marvel of biological specialization. The goat's upper lip is remarkably prehensile, soft yet muscular, and capable of parting dense thickets with delicate control. Working in tandem with a highly mobile, dexterous tongue, this specialized lip reaches past tough outer thorns and coarse bark to select only the most calorically rewarding vegetation. Leaves that cling stubbornly to branches are expertly stripped away, while woody stems are tested and sheared between hard lower incisors and a hardened upper dental pad. This selective foraging strategy ensures that every bite delivers maximum nutritional value. As autumn deepens, the plant matter consumed is rich in secondary compounds and stored carbohydrates, which the goat's complex ruminant digestive system processes with remarkable efficiency. Microbial fermentation breaks down the tough fibrous material within a multi-chambered stomach, slowly converting woody browse into the vital fatty acids needed to build the animal's insulating subcutaneous layers. Each deliberate motion of the jaw is unhurried and rhythmic, a quiet physical investment in survival. The soft chewing blends harmoniously with the whispering autumn breeze, a tranquil testament to nature's enduring design as the amber light slowly deepens around the foraging herd. Beneath the lengthening amber shadows, every mouthful of autumn browse serves a vital biological purpose. This is the season of metabolic transformation, a critical biological window where the prime adult must outpace the impending cold. The nutrient-dense vegetation gathered from the terrace slopes undergoes a profound internal conversion. Within the multi-chambered rumen, specialized microorganisms ferment the complex plant fibers, unlocking sugars and volatile fatty acids that enter the bloodstream as pure, sustaining fuel. Instead of burning these incoming calories purely for immediate movement, the goat's physiology shifts toward energy storage. Insulin pathways direct the surplus nutrients into deep, insulating layers of subcutaneous fat and dense internal fat deposits. This growing thermal blanket acts as a metabolic savings account, wrapping the vital organs and muscular frame in protective warmth. Every deliberate step along the hillside and every steady motion of the jaw contributes directly to this physiological fortress. The process is remarkably efficient, finely tuned by millennia of evolutionary adaptation to the rhythm of changing seasons. As the amber light softens across the valley, the physical labor of autumn foraging yields a quiet, invisible harvest. Stored energy accumulates silently beneath the thick autumn coat, ensuring that when the deep snows eventually arrive, the animal carries its own warmth and nourishment through the harshest months ahead. The steady, rhythmic breathing of the resting forager matches the calm cadence of the fading evening, grounded in the quiet certainty of biological preparation. Amidst the amber-dappled slopes, the prime adult does not forage alone. Close by, another member of the herd steps purposefully through the rustling leaves, their footsteps sounding softly on the dry earth. This gentle proximity requires no competition. Instead, the shared landscape fosters a profound sense of social cohesion, anchored by silent understandings and subtle olfactory signaling. As the two goats pause near a lichen-dusted outcrop, they engage in quiet tactile contact. The prime adult extends its muzzle, gently brushing its cheek against the flank of its companion in a soothing gesture that reinforces herd stability. Along the underside of the lower jaw and near the base of the horns lie specialized sebaceous glands, with a slow, deliberate tilt of the head. The adult rubs these scent-marking zones against a low-hanging juniper branch, leaving behind a faint chemical signature of identity and calm presence. This silent exchange of pheromones communicates more than mere proximity. It provides a shared reassurance, knitting the individuals together into a unified, harmonious collective as the daylight fades. There is no urgency in their movements, only a deep, instinctive attunement to one another. The soft evening bird calls drift downward from the darkening ridges, blending with the gentle breeze that carries the rich, earthy scent of fallen leaves and warm coats. Side by side, they continue their measured pacing across the terrace, their synchronized steps echoing the tranquil rhythm of the descending twilight, secure in the quiet companionship of the herd. As the amber sun slips below the jagged horizon, the long shadows of the valley stretch and merge into a soft, velvety dusk. The herd begins to consolidate its scattered positions, shifting from decentralized grazing to a purposeful, unified movement. Leading the way along deeply worn, terraced paths, the prime adult steps with calm deliberation. Each hoof finds a familiar foothold on the dry earth, a testament to generations of seasonal memory etched into the landscape. The air cools rapidly now, carrying the metallic crispness of approaching night, yet the goats move at an unhurried, restorative pace. They navigate the winding switchbacks toward the lee of the sheltering rocky outcrops, seeking sanctuary from the rising evening drafts. This seasonal adaptation, gravitating toward protected microclimates, conserves precious metabolic energy, ensuring that the hard-won fat reserves accumulated throughout the day are not needlessly taxed by the chill. Beside the leader, other members of the group fall into a natural, synchronized procession. The rhythmic scuff of hooves and the gentle rustling of dry leaves beneath padded feet compose a steady, lulling cadence. Far down the valley, the faint, resonant chime of a distant grazing bell drifts upward on the evening breeze, adding a distant, peaceful note to the quiet wilderness. Without alarm or haste, the procession reaches the base of the towering cliffs, where massive boulders radiate the lingering warmth of the sun-baked stone. Here, nestled safely against the elements, the herd begins to settle. The prime adult turns in a slow circle, pressing down the dry foliage to shape a comfortable resting spot, perfectly poised to greet the quiet stillness of the autumn night. With the herd now nestled securely against the sun-warmed stone, the final amber hues of twilight dissolve into a peaceful, indigo sky. The prime adult lowers its weight onto dry, rustling leaves, folding its legs neatly beneath a broad, compact frame. All around, the other goats follow suit, shifting into comfortable, sheltered positions. Together, they form a quiet, unified huddle that naturally shares warmth and and provides mutual protection against the descending chill of the autumn night. As the body settles into stillness, the complex process of herbivore digestion begins its quiet, vital work. The first of 4 stomach chambers receives the day's harvest of fibrous browse and nutrient-dense foliage. Soon, a soft, rhythmic movement ripples along the adult's throat as a small bolus of food is regurgitated back to the mouth for slow, deliberate re-chewing. This rumination process, a marvel of ruminant adaptation, allows the gut bacteria to thoroughly break down tough cellulose, extracting every last calorie of energy to sustain the animal through the freezing months ahead. The gentle, synchronized sound of soft chewing echoes softly through the cooling air, blending with a faint evening breeze and the distant, fading calls of roosting birds. Footsteps on dry earth cease entirely, replaced by a deep, restorative stillness. Eyes grow heavy under the steady canopy of emerging stars, and the steady breathing of the resting herd deepens into a slow, lulling rhythm. Shielded from the frost and cradled by the quiet mountain, the adult drifts into deep, untroubled slumber. High upon the timberline, the pre-dawn hours hold their breath in absolute stillness. As the night deepens, temperatures plummet past freezing, drawing moisture from the thin alpine air. Across the sloping meadow, millions of microscopic crystals bloom upon the blades of grass and pine needles, transforming the rugged pasture into a vast, silent quilt of white frost. In the lee of an ancient boulder, a prime adult goat rests undisturbed by the drop in the mercury. The crisp mountain air carries the scent of frozen earth and dormant resin. Through specialized sensory hairs, vibrissae, lining its muzzle, the goat perceives the sharp shift in the atmosphere. Specialized thermoreceptors in its skin register the plunging temperature long before the first pale light touches the peaks. Inside the animal's body, an extraordinary biological transformation completes its seasonal cycle. The skin responds to the cold by triggering piloerection, lifting the coarse, hollow guard hairs to trap a crucial layer of warm air. Beneath this rugged outer shield, a dense, ultra-fine cashmere undercoat thickens and locks together, creating a thermal barrier nearly impervious to the glacial wind. The goat stirs slowly, shifting its weight against the frosted stone. Every movement is deliberate, designed to conserve metabolic energy for the long winter ahead. The subtle rustling of frosted grass accompanies its deep, measured inhalation. Out in the quiet gloom, the soft collective breathing of the nearby herd rises in faint plumes of mist. The alpine world waits patiently in the dark, held in the gentle, enduring grip of the frost. This dual-layered defense system represents a masterpiece of mammalian engineering. The outer coat consists of long, coarse guard hairs, beautifully designed to repel moisture. When the morning frost begins to melt and turn to dew, these specialized hairs shed the water effortlessly, preventing it from reaching the skin and sapping the animal's core temperature. Tucked safely beneath this weather-resistant canopy lies the true marvel of high-altitude survival: the cashmere undercoat. Grown thick and abundant as the autumn days shortened, these microscopic fibers are astonishingly fine and crimped. This crimp creates countless tiny air pockets that trap the heat radiated by the goat's body. Physics transforms biology here, as this trapped air acts as a superlative thermal insulator, entirely sealing the body's warmth against the freezing drafts of the high meadow. With every breath, the prime adult maintains this microclimate. The resting metabolism slows, directing precious energy inward while the fur works in silent harmony with the physiology. No shiver breaks the animal's composure. The physiological design absorbs the cold, neutralizing the threat of the autumn frost long before the sun crests the distant ridge. In the absolute quiet of the pre-dawn hours, individual survival seamlessly transitions into a collective architecture of warmth. Sensing the plummeting mercury, The herd members rise from their sheltered hollows with slow, deliberate grace. Driven by ancient instinct, they converge upon a gentle, wind-shadowed lee of the slope, initiating a profound display of communal thermoregulation. There is no agitation, only a quiet, steady migration toward one another. The prime adult steps into the center of the forming assembly, pressing its broad shoulder firmly against the flank of a companion. One by one, the goats settle into a dense, interlocking formation. By huddling tightly together, they drastically reduce their individual surface area exposed to the biting mountain breeze. This social clustering creates a shared microclimate, multiplying the effectiveness of their individual cashmere coats. Heat radiates gently from each resting body, merging with the next to form a tangible envelope of warmth against the freezing air. Social hierarchy, so strictly maintained during the foraging hours of summer, dissolves into a peaceful parody of survival. Horns are carefully angled away from neighbors to ensure absolute safety within the tight cluster. The herd breathes in unison, a rhythmic, synchronized exhalation of warm mist that mingles softly in the crisp air. Through this cooperative stillness, the metabolic cost of enduring the frost is shared equitably across the group. They rest as a singular, cohesive organism on the frosted earth, anchored in serene solidarity while the silent Alpine night slowly yields its grip to the coming dawn. Within the shelter of the huddling herd, the prime adult settles deeper into the frosted turf, initiating a quiet, vital internal labor. Even as the external world remains locked in a freezing stasis, the goat's physiology goes to work. A profound silence settles over the assembly, broken only by the rhythmic, measured sound of steady chewing. This is rumination, an evolutionary masterpiece of mammalian digestion that serves as an essential engine of warmth during the coldest hours of the night. Hours earlier, the goat foraged widely across the Alpine meadow, ingesting coarse grasses, woody stems, and tough lichen. Now, resting in the pre-dawn chill, the animal regurgitates this fibrous mass back into its mouth as cud, grinding it down slowly with broad, flat molars. Each deliberate, circular motion of the jaw stimulates saliva production, buffering the multi-chambered stomach as fermentation begins anew. This continuous breakdown of complex carbohydrates by specialized rumen microbes is a biological exothermic reaction. It acts as an internal furnace, generating steady metabolic heat from within the core of the body. As the cud is processed, chemical energy transforms directly into thermal warmth, radiating outward to protect the vital organs against the biting frost. The slow cadence of the chewing lulls the surrounding herd, matching the steady, synchronized breathing of the group. There is a deeply meditative quality to this physiological persistence. Through the quiet alchemy of digestion, the nourishment of the previous autumn day is quietly repurposed to conquer the chill of the morning, fueling survival from the inside out while the world waits patiently for the sun. While the rhythmic, internal furnace of digestion hums softly through the resting herd, the prime adult pauses its cutting for a moment of quiet vigilance. Lifting its heavy head from the frosted turf, the mature goat assumes its role as sentinel for the sleeping family. Its large, horizontal, rectangular pupils dilate slightly in the dim, silver-tinted light, offering a sweeping, panoramic view of the silent Alpine horizon. This unique ocular adaptation allows the animal to scan a vast, nearly 360-degree arc without turning its head, keeping watch over the silver-coated meadow and the dark tree line beyond. Every shadow cast by the pale starlight is carefully assessed. A stray gust of crisp mountain air carries the scent of frozen pine and damp earth, and the goat tests the breeze, its nostrils flaring delicately to catch any foreign scent. Around it, the rest of the herd remains undisturbed, trusting in the steady awareness of their leader. The subtle rustling of frosted grass under the weight of a distant, shifting branch barely registers before the adult's calm gaze sweeps past, dismissing the minor disturbance. There is no tension in this alertness, only a deep, ancient attunement to the rhythms of the ecosystem. The goat stands as a quiet anchor in the freezing dawn, perfectly still, blending seamlessly into the frosted landscape while the world holds its breath in the fading dark. High above the sleeping valley, the edge of the eastern sky begins to soften, trading its bruised midnight indigo for a fragile, translucent pearl. This subtle lightening of the horizon heralds the end of the long autumn night. The first faint amber hues graze the highest frosted mountain peaks, casting a pale rose-gold blush across the jagged granite spires. In response to this imperceptible shift in the atmosphere, the herd stirs gently. The prime adult lowers its head once more, breaking its long vigil as a quiet wave of movement ripples through the resting family. Muscles that have held steady against the pre-dawn chill relax and stretch. Soft, contented snorts rise into the thinning air as the goats shake the heavy silver frost crystals from their thick guard hairs, sending a cascade of diamond-like dust into the grass. Winter's approach is now undeniable, written in the frozen breath pluming softly in the morning air and the unyielding crust of ice locking the meadow soil. Yet there is no panic in the awakening. Guided by ancient instinct, the herd begins to orient itself southward, preparing to descend toward lower elevations where sheltered valleys and remaining browse await. The low metallic chime of a distant grazing bell drifts upward on a gentle current of warming air, a quiet reminder of the broader ecosystem ticking steadily onward. With measured, deliberate steps, the prime adult leads the cohesive family forward, leaving a trail of dark, purposeful hoofprints across the pristine, frost-painted earth. Dawn breaks not with warmth, but with a profound, heavy stillness across the high Alpine ridges. Pale morning light filters through a thick veil of gray clouds, illuminating a world transformed overnight by relentless snowfall. Deep powder blankets the jagged peaks, sealing away the delicate lichens and exposed cushion plants that sustained the mountain goats through the autumn months. High above the timberline, the air is thin and bitterly cold. A gentle winter wind whispers across the drifts, carrying microscopic ice crystals that settle softly onto the dense, dual-layered coats of the waiting herd. Beneath the long, coarse guard hairs, a thick and crimped undercoat known as cashmere traps precious body heat, providing an evolutionary shield against sub-zero temperatures. At the center of the group stands the mature female, her senses finely tuned to the subtle barometric drops and the accumulating weight beneath her cloven hooves. Her specialized hooves, featuring hard outer rims for traction and soft, rubbery inner pads that act as natural suction cups, are currently buried in pristine white drifts. The sheer depth of the snowpack presents a formidable physiological barrier to movement and foraging, restricting energy reserves. Nature's ancient cue is absolute. The changing photoperiod and the scarcity of high-altitude forage trigger a synchronized internal shift across the herd. With a quiet, deliberate movement, the mature goat shifts her weight, lowers her head, and turns toward the steep, winding pathways that lead downward. The rest of the family group falls into step behind her, bound by generational memory and the urgent need to find refuge. As the first crunching footsteps break the surface crust of the snow, the descent begins, moving slowly away from the freezing blizzards and toward the sheltering valleys far below. They move as a singular, flowing silhouette along the precipitous ledge, descending in single file where the cliffside softens into narrow, time-worn switchbacks. This vertical migration is guided by an unbroken chain of generational memory, passing ancient trails from matriarch to calf over centuries of mountain existence. Each animal places its hooves with absolute precision into the impressions left by the leader ahead, conserving precious energy by treading the path of least resistance through the deepening drifts. As they navigate the steep descending trail, The rhythm of their travel is underscored by the muffled crunching of snow under heavy hooves and the soft, rhythmic exhales of warm breath turning to mist in the freezing air. The mature female pauses briefly at a sharp bend, testing the stability of an icy shelf before shifting her muscular shoulders and continuing downward. Her deep-chested anatomy, evolved specifically for tremendous lung capacity in rarefied air, now steadies her through the sustained physical effort of the long descent. Far above, a distant raven call echoes across the whitening crags, swallowed quickly by the vast and quiet expanse. The ambient temperature slowly begins to lift by a fraction of a degree with every vertical meter lost. Gently, the fierce Alpine gusts begin to moderate, intercepted by the towering sentinels of the upper forest edge. Here, the landscape transforms from stark, monochromatic expanses to a soothing tapestry of slate-gray granite and deep, restful greens. The protective canopy of the lower timberline draws nearer, offering a quiet, shaded refuge from the relentless glare of the high ridges as the winding procession presses steadily onward toward the sheltering valley floor. The gradient steepens once more, revealing a treacherous sheet of blue-tinged ice coating the sloping granite slabs. Here, gravity threatens to dictate every downward step, turning the mountain path into a test of pure biomechanical engineering. Yet, the herd proceeds with an unhurried, hypnotic grace, relying on a foot design forged by millions of years of evolutionary refinement. At the base of each sturdy limb lies a specialized hoof, acting as a natural crampon against the slick veneer of winter. The outer rim of the keratin shell is hard and sharp, designed to chip into crusted snow and catch the smallest irregularities in frozen stone. But the true secret to their descent lies hidden within, a concave, rubbery footpad made of soft tissue. As the mature goat places her weight downward, this inner pad flattens and molds itself intimately to the micro-texture of the ice, creating friction through sheer surface adhesion. She shifts her heavy frame forward, her dew claws splaying slightly to catch the slope and prevent any downward slide. Every muscle in her shoulders and hindquarters engages in a slow, controlled contraction, absorbing the impact of gravity with quiet efficiency. There is no slipping, no frantic scrambling, only a measured, deliberate cadence where science and anatomy meet the unyielding ice. Around them, the forest canopy begins to arch overhead, filtering the pale dawn light through drooping boughs of pine and fir. The sound of snow shifting underfoot changes from a sharp crust to a softer, muffled compress. With each fluid stride down the frozen switchbacks, the tension in the steep descent eases, allowing the steady rhythm of their breathing to harmonize with the tranquil quiet of the approaching valley. The wind-scoured granite of the upper ridges finally gives way to a welcome threshold as the herd slips past the timberline. Here, a microclimate of stillness begins to take hold. Towering stands of old-growth spruce and alpine fir reach upward like ancient pillars, their dense, needle-laden branches forming a protective green ceiling against the biting winter gales. Entering this forested zone initiates a profound shift in the ambient temperature and the surrounding soundscape. The howling gusts that dominated the exposed alpine crags are now broken by the thick wooden canopy, reduced to little more than a gentle, sighing breath that stirs the heavy boughs. High above, a distant raven calls out once into the crisp morning air, its resonant voice swallowed quickly by the absorbent blanket of undisturbed snow. For the mature goat and her companions, this structural transition offers immediate relief from the relentless energy expenditure required to endure high-altitude winds. The forest floor, sheltered by the overarching branches, holds a softer, deeper layer of powdery snow that has never known the hard-packing force of the summit storms. As the animals move deeper into the upper forest, the biomechanics of their travel alter subtly. Their hooves no longer search for friction on blue ice. but instead press quietly into the yielding white depths of the sheltered ravine, guided by ancestral paths that wind among the silent, waiting trunks. Deep within the embrace of the lower ravine, the chaotic white blur of the upper mountain dissolves entirely into a landscape of profound, tranquil stillness. The herd gathers naturally in this geographical sanctuary, settling into a wide, protected depression where the sheer rock walls of the valley cradle the earth and block the remaining chill of the northern drafts. Here, the microclimate fosters a restorative calm. The ambient temperature hovers a few crucial degrees higher than the freezing ridges above, conserving the precious metabolic energy of every animal. The mature goat stands near the center of the group, her heavy winter coat, composed of a dense, insulating underfur and long, coarse guard hairs, puffing outward to trap her body heat efficiently. The social hierarchy of the herd softens in this shared haven. The subtle tensions of the exposed trails melt away as the animals press close together, finding security and warmth in sheer proximity. All around them, the forest breathes in slow, rhythmic harmony. A pine branch creaks softly under a gentle accumulation of fresh powder, releasing a cascade of sparkling snowflakes that drift lazily through the dim morning light. Beneath their hooves, the muffled crunch of settling snow sounds muted and distant, swallowed by the thick carpet of pine needles and moss beneath the drifts. In this sheltered ravine, untouched by the harsh gales of the summit, the world slows to a quiet pause. The journey is complete, and the long, peaceful rest of the winter season has finally begun. As the morning light filters softly through the evergreen canopy, the mature goat lowers her head toward a patch of ground where the snow cover lies shallow. Her specialized split hooves, with their hard outer rims and flexible rubbery pads, gently brush aside the powdery surface to reveal the dormant treasures of the valley floor. Unlike the lush, green Alpine meadows of summer, this winter landscape offers a different kind of sustenance, tough, fibrous, and deeply essential. She reaches out with flexible, prehensile lips and sensitive muzzle hairs, expertly selecting the exposed twigs of dwarf willows and dry grasses that manage to persist beneath the timberline. Her digestive system, finely tuned through seasonal adaptation, shifts into a slower, more efficient mode. As a ruminant, she will later regurgitate and re-chew this woody forage, extracting every possible calorie through prolonged fermentation in her multi-chambered stomach. Reaching up toward the lower trunk of a weathered pine, she scrapes at the rough, textured bark with her incisor teeth, ingesting nutrient-dense inner layers alongside crusted crustose lichens clinging to the wood. These arboreal meals provide vital minerals and energy while avoiding the high metabolic cost of pawing through deep drifts. Around her, other members of the herd quietly follow suit, their rhythmic chewing sounds blending with the gentle sigh of the winter wind moving through the pine needles high above. There is no rush, no urgency in their movements. Each bite is taken with deliberate, unhurried grace, perfectly synchronized with the quiet, resting pulse of the cold season. Energy is carefully measured and conserved, sealing a silent pact of endurance with the sleeping forest that surrounds them. The morning light arrives slowly across the high Alpine valley, casting a pale, violet glow over an endless expanse of undisturbed snow. A pristine blanket covers every boulder and depression, transforming the rugged terrain into a realm of absolute stillness. Out in the frosted expanse, a mature mountain goat stands in quiet repose. Its breath rises in slow, gentle plumes, dissolving into the freezing air. Survival in this demanding winter landscape requires exceptional physiological design. Beneath the animal's coarse white guard hairs lies a dense, insulating cashmere undercoat, trapping a thick layer of warm air against the skin. This specialized thermal regulation allows the goat to maintain its core body temperature effortlessly, even as sub-zero dawn temperatures lock the valley in ice. Far above, a distant raven calls out across the frozen basin, its raspy voice swallowed by the soft, muffled wind that drifts lightly across the snow crust. The surrounding dwarf shrubs and weathered alpine willows remain largely hidden beneath the heavy white accumulation. Yet, driven by ancient instincts and the quiet rhythm of metabolic necessity, the mature goat shifts its weight. Its sturdy limbs prepare for the daily search for scarce nourishment, relying on remarkable physical resilience to endure the leanest months of the year. With deliberate grace, the animal takes its first slow step, breaking the silence of the morning as its hooves settle gently into the pristine drifts, ready to uncover the hidden world beneath the ice. With a measured shift in balance, the mature goat focuses its attention on a windswept patch where dwarf willows lie buried beneath the white expanse. A thin, glassy layer of refrozen ice coats the surface, forming a formidable barrier against the frost-locked ground. To access the dormant vegetation below, the animal employs a specialized anatomical toolkit shaped by millennia of evolutionary adaptation. Lifting a sturdy foreleg, the goat brings down its heavy, cloven hoof with calculated precision. The hard outer keratin rim of the hoof strikes the ice, followed instantly by the soft, flexible pad of the foot. This unique dual-textured design acts as a natural shock absorber while providing vital traction on slippery slopes. The initial impact sends a sharp, echoing crack through the stillness as the crisp snow crust fractures under the concentrated force. With slow, sweeping strokes, the goat begins to scrape away the shattered fragments. The lower legs possess a remarkable density of tactile nerve endings, allowing the animal to feel through the frozen layers and locate the densest clusters of woody stems beneath. As each crust layer gives way, plumes of powdery snow drift softly on the gentle breeze. The rhythmic sound of scraping hooves fills the quiet morning air, a steady cadence of survival. By systematically breaking the surface crust without expending excess energy, the goat conserves its precious winter fat reserves while steadily uncovering the rich, subterranean pantry hidden just inches away from the biting chill. Beneath the newly cleared snow, a tangle of dwarf willow twigs and crustose lichens awaits. To harvest these microscopic treasures, the goat relies on a masterclass of specialized oral anatomy. Its upper lip, highly mobile and covered in tactile vibrissae, parts the abrasive ice crystals with astonishing dexterity. Working in tandem with a muscular, flexible tongue, the muzzle operates almost like human fingers, delicately brushing aside grit and mineral debris while singling out high-energy nutrients. This selective browsing is crucial for winter survival. By passing over woody, indigestible bark and focusing entirely on nutrient-dense tips and epiphytic lichens, the animal maximizes every calorie consumed. The lips possess a dense concentration of sensory nerve endings, granting the goat a remarkably acute sense of touch in freezing temperatures. It can distinguish between frozen rock and a dormant moss cushion by texture alone, ensuring that every bite contributes directly to its internal thermal economy. As the gentle morning breeze carries the distant call of a raven across the valley, the quiet atmosphere is filled only with the soft, rhythmic chewing sounds of the ruminant at work. The jaws move in a wide, circular grinding motion, breaking down the tough, fibrous cell walls of the winter browse. Each morsel is thoroughly coated in specialized saliva before passing down into the multi-chambered stomach for slow, microbial fermentation. In this pristine, silent landscape, the goat stands entirely undisturbed, sustained by the quiet patience of its own evolutionary design. Once inside the complex, multi-chambered stomach, the coarse twigs and lichens encounter a vast internal fermentation vat. Specialized communities of symbiotic bacteria and protozoa go to work, secreting enzymes capable of breaking down stubborn cellulose that would defeat a simpler digestive system. This biological partnership is the cornerstone of the goat's metabolic resilience. As these microorganisms slowly ferment the fibrous material, they generate a continuous, low-grade chemical heat. This internal furnace acts as a biological radiator, radiating warmth outward through the dense undercoat and helping maintain the animal's stable core temperature despite the sub-zero air. Digestion during the lean season is an unhurried, methodical affair. The food remains within the rumen for hours, sometimes days, undergoing repeated regurgitation and remastication, the process of chewing the cud, to extract every last molecule of glucose and protein. By relying on this slow-release energy pathway, the goat avoids the dangerous metabolic spikes and crashes that plague less specialized herbivores. It converts low-quality winter forage into steady, sustaining vitality, effectively turning indigestible woody brush into the thermal fuel it needs to outlast the frost. As the morning light deepens across the snow-draped valley, a thin plume of warm breath curls gently from the goat's nostrils into the crisp air. The animal pauses its rhythmic chewing for a quiet moment, letting its weight settle comfortably into the deep powder. Every physiological system functions in serene, unbroken harmony, conserving precious calories and anchoring the animal safely within the rhythm of the frozen world. A gentle shift in the morning breeze carries across the valley floor, rustling the surface of the untracked snow. Raising its head from the recent excavation site, the mature goat pauses to survey the broader white expanse. Not far away, half hidden among the protruding skeletal frames of dwarf willows, other members of the scattered herd stand in quiet silhouette against the glare. There are no sounds of alarm, only the occasional, rhythmic crisp crunch of a hoof breaking through surface ice as a companion shifts its weight to uncover a fresh patch of dormant browse. This loose, decentralized assembly provides a profound sense of security in the vast, open wilderness. Without a single vocalization, the animals share a collective vigilance. Peripheral vision catches the subtle movements of neighbors dipping their muzzles into the powder, their thick white coats blending seamlessly into the snowy contours of the slope. Should an unseen danger stir in the timberline above, the sudden stillness of one individual ripples instantly through the entire group, synchronizing their awareness. For now, however, the atmosphere remains one of profound, undisturbed tranquility. The distant, resonant croak of a raven echoes down from a high granite cliff, swallowed quickly by the muffled, heavy stillness of the blanketed valley. Bound by unspoken social cohesion, the dispersed herd shares the quiet labor of the morning. Each animal attends to its own vital metabolic needs while drawing quiet reassurance from the mere presence of the others. Surrounded by the serene majesty of the frost-bound heights, the goat lowers its head once more to the snow, resuming its steady, calming rhythm of winter survival. High above the frozen floor, the winter sun reaches its midday apex, casting long, pale shadows across the crusted snow without offering any true warmth. The ambient temperature remains stubbornly locked below freezing, yet within the goat's dense, multi-layered fleece, an intricate network of hollow guard hairs and fine underwool continues to trap vital thermal air. This natural insulation preserves the animal's internal core temperature, maintaining a steady metabolic equilibrium even as the biting Alpine draft weaves through the valley. Slowly lifting its muzzle from the final foraging crater, the mature goat shakes a light dusting of powdery snow from its thick coat. The rhythmic, internal fermentation within its specialized four-chambered stomach has successfully broken down the tough, fibrous twigs and lichens consumed through the morning hours, converting dormant cellulose into a slow-burning reserve of vital energy. With a final, calm glance toward the scattered silhouettes of the herd, the goat turns its heavy shoulders southward. Step by deliberate step, it begins to navigate the gentle slope toward the shadowed mouth of a protected ravine. The ambient sounds of the open flat gradually fade, replaced by the deep, heavy silence of towering rock walls. Here, sheltered from the scouring winter winds and wrapped in the quiet stillness of the descending afternoon, the animal settles into a sheltered alcove, resting peacefully as the long shadows of evening begin to stretch across the snow. The high Alpine sky surrenders its pale daylight, bruising into deep violet as a heavy winter storm crests the jagged ridge. A sudden, sharp drop in barometric pressure sweeps down the mountain slopes, carrying the scent of frozen moisture and impending blizzard. The air grows brittle, chilling instantly to numbers well below freezing, while the wind begins to keen a high, mournful note against the exposed crags. Sensing the swift atmospheric descent in the sensitive joints of her knees and the deep chambers of her inner ear, the aging female goat pauses. Her amber eyes reflect the churning gray clouds above, with years of experience etched into the curved, weathered ridges of her horns. She recognizes the unmistakable signature of a severe winter tempest. She shifts her weight away from the ridge, turning her broad shoulders toward the base of the limestone escarpment where the mountain's ancient stone offers a dependable geological shield. With deliberate, measured steps, she sets a slow pace along the narrow, snow-dusted ledge. Her thick, double-layered winter coat, a dense, insulating underfur trapped beneath coarse, wind-resistant guard hairs, fluffs against the rising gale. Behind her, the rest of the resilient herd falls into single file, trusting her seasoned leadership through the treacherous, whitening landscape. They move with quiet synchronization, conserving precious metabolic energy as the temperature plummets further. The howling gale grows louder against the stone walls, but ahead, the welcoming shadow of the limestone alcove waits in silence. The narrow ledge gives way abruptly to a steep slope of frozen scree, where loose gravel has fused into treacherous sheets of blue-white ice. Here, the senior goat pauses for a fractional heartbeat, her cloven hooves testing the density of the frozen crust. Each hoof possesses a sharp, hard keratin rim surrounding a soft, spongy inner pad, an exquisite natural adaptation that expands to grip irregular stones and compresses to create suction on slick surfaces. By shifting her center of gravity directly over her supporting limbs, she minimizes lateral slippage, reducing the muscular micro-adjustments that would otherwise drain her limited winter fat reserves. With infinite caution, she places her right forefoot down, pressing firmly until she confirms absolute stability before following with the hind. Her aging joints, stiffened by years of navigating these vertical heights, move with stiff yet practiced grace. Behind her, the younger members of the herd mirror her exact placement, stepping precisely into the shallow indentations her hooves leave in the light drift of accumulating snow. They cross the threshold of the cavernous limestone mouth, leaving the blinding white fury of the blizzard behind in a single, breathtaking transition. The howling of the wind instantly drops from a shrieking gale to a distant, muffled sigh echoing against the high stone ceiling. The air inside the deep alcove is still, heavy with the earthy scent of ancient mineral deposits and dry dust. As she steps further into the profound, shadowy interior, the ambient temperature rises noticeably, shielded from the biting wind chill. She exhales a long, warm sigh, her breath curling softly in the dim light before fading against the cool, protective embrace of the living rock. Within the deep limestone recess, a profound transformation takes place as the herd gathers in the protective gloom. Driven by an ancient instinctual imperative of herd cohesion, the animals press close together against the curved, solid stone walls of the cave. Individual boundaries blur in the dim light as bodies lean into one another, forming a dense, living quilt of winter coats and thick, insulating underfur. This clustering behavior is a masterclass in mammalian thermoregulation and energy conservation. By pressing flank to flank, the goats drastically reduce their collective surface area to volume ratio, exposing far less skin and hair to the ambient air. Each animal acts as a thermal buffer for its neighbors, trapping a dense pocket of warm air within the interstitial spaces of the group. Right at the heart of this quiet assembly, the aging goat finds her sanctuary. Wedged gently between the substantial shoulders of a younger buck and the broad flank of a mature doe, she is completely shielded from any stray drafts filtering in from the cavern entrance. Here, in the center of the huddle, the ambient temperature rises by several critical degrees, maintained entirely by shared metabolic heat. This natural oven dramatically lowers the physiological cost of survival. Instead of expending precious calories on shivering to maintain an internal core temperature of 38 degrees Celsius, her aging body can redirect those vital energy reserves toward basic cellular maintenance and deep, restorative rest. The frantic demands of winter metabolism slow to a peaceful, steady hum, matching the tranquil rhythm of the shelter around her. Near the mouth of the limestone alcove, the winter tempest wages a relentless war against the mountain. Gale-force winds rush across the jagged stone thresholds, creating a turbulent, whistling roar as frozen air collides with the outer crags. Yet, as the sound waves travel deeper into the winding recesses of the cavern, a remarkable acoustic filtering occurs. The heavy limestone walls absorb the high-frequency shriek of the blizzard, stripping away its violence and reducing the exterior fury to a distant, low-frequency hum. Within the interior sanctuary, the atmosphere is defined by a gentle, enveloping quiet. The howling gale becomes nothing more than a soft, muffled sigh, echoing faintly through the vaulted rock ceiling like the breathing of a sleeping giant. The sharp, abrasive bite of blowing snow is replaced by a tranquil, still air mass, undisturbed by the chaotic turbulence raging just a few yards away. This acoustic shift mirrors the physiological transition happening within the herd. Sound travels easily through dense, still air, and the cavern fills with the soothing, synchronized music of survival. There is the occasional soft click of shifting hooves on dry stone, followed immediately by the deep, rhythmic exhalations of resting mammals. Every breath is steady and measured, contributing to a collective cadence that lulls the senses. Interspersed with the soft breathing comes the quiet, mechanical sound of rumination. From deep within the resting huddle, the steady chewing of cud rises, a soothing, repetitive sound that signals metabolic peace. As the aging goat listens to the muted roar of the storm fade into the gentle cadence of the herd, her eyelids grow heavy. The harsh exterior world feels distant and unreal, sealed away behind a thick curtain of stone and sound. Deep within the protective gloom of the limestone cavern, the aging goat settles into a state of profound physiological rest. With the temperature outside plunging well below freezing, her body initiates a sophisticated survival strategy known as metabolic depression. By intentionally lowering her baseline energy expenditure, she preserves precious fat reserves and precious calories that cannot easily be replaced during the barren winter months. Every physiological system slows to a gentle, sustainable rhythm, prioritizing warmth and conservation above all else. Her thick, dual-layered winter coat, composed of a coarse guard hair outer layer and a dense, insulating cashmere-like undercoat, traps a crucial boundary layer of warm air against her skin. This natural anatomical insulation works in tandem with the shared body heat of the huddle, drastically reducing the thermal gradient between her body and the chilly cave air. Within the quiet darkness, her digestive engine continues its slow, efficient work through rumination. Releasing stored forage from the rumen into the mouth, she quietly rechews the fibrous cud in a steady, rhythmic cycle. This prolonged mastication stimulates saliva production, buffering her digestive tract while extracting every last molecule of nourishment from tough mountain grasses gathered days before. The soft, wet sound of slow chewing blends seamlessly with the ambient hum of the distant storm and the deep, synchronized breathing of her companions. As her jaw moves in a slow, hypnotic circle, tension drains entirely from her weary muscles. Wrapped in absolute darkness, absolute quiet, and the gentle warmth of the herd, she drifts peacefully into a state of restorative stillness. Hours slip away in the timeless quiet of the deep limestone alcove. Outside, the high-altitude blizzard continues its fierce dance across the mountain ridge, yet the gale remains entirely displaced, reduced to a low, distant sigh as it passes harmlessly across the mouth of the rock shelter. The drafts that enter the cavern are gentle and faint, losing their icy edge against the warm breath of the resting mammals. Within this secure refuge, the collective huddle of the herd achieves a remarkable state of biological equilibrium. Individual boundaries blur in the soft, dark shadows. The aging goat rests comfortably at the center of the mass, her frame supported and shielded by the bodies of her kin. Together, they maintain a stable microclimate where ambient temperatures remain significantly higher than the freezing world outside. This cooperative huddling minimizes the surface area exposed to cool air, vastly lowering individual heat loss and ensuring that every calorie saved contributes directly to winter survival. As the evening transitions fully into night, the cadence of the cavern slows even further. The rhythmic chewing of cud gradually ceases as the herd drifts from light rest into deep, restorative sleep. Only the soft, synchronized sound of breathing remains, rising and falling in a slow, harmonious wave that echoes faintly off the ancient stone walls. Draped in absolute peace, wrapped in heavy winter coats, and cradled by the enduring strength of the herd, the aging goat lets go of the days-long vigilance. The mountain sleeps, enveloped in the quiet shelter of the earth. The fading amber light of dusk surrenders the high-altitude peaks to the quiet sovereignty of winter. Across the frozen slopes, long blue shadows stretch and dissolve into the encroaching twilight, signaling the final descent of day. The Alpine world grows still, held in the hushed expectancy of the long night ahead. High upon the snowy ridge, the mountain herd begins its deliberate movement toward shelter. At the center of this quiet procession walks the senior goat, moving with a measured, economical grace born of many winters. Every step is unhurried, conserving precious physiological energy as the ambient temperature plunges well below freezing. As twilight gives way to the deep indigo of night, the wind hushes to a muffled sigh against the stone. The herd converges within the natural embrace of a deep, rocky alcove, sheltered from the biting drafts of the open valley. Here, the senior goat settles into the heart of the clustered group, finding a familiar, protected spot shielded from the elements. This huddling behavior is a masterclass in mammalian thermoregulation. By pressing close together, the animals significantly reduce their individual surface-to-volume exposure, sharing body heat and creating a localized microclimate that defies the sub-zero chill of the outer air. As the aging animal eases its weight onto the dry earth, its metabolic rate begins a natural, restorative deceleration. Breathing slows to match the rhythmic cadence of the sleeping herd, anchoring both body and mind in the profound stillness of the mountain winter. Within the natural limestone overhang, the physical arrangement of the resting herd forms an intricate tapestry of survival. The younger, more energetic goats naturally cluster along the outer perimeter, absorbing the brunt of the ambient draft, while the inner sanctum offers a haven of profound, stabilized warmth. Here, at the very center of the huddle, the senior goat secures its position with quiet authority earned through years of enduring Alpine seasons. This strategic placement is no accident of chance, but a refined social architecture of the mountain winter. By resting deep within the collective mass, the aging animal benefits from the combined metabolic output of the entire herd. Dense winter coats, featuring a coarse, wind-resistant guard hair and a fine, insulating cashmere undercoat, press flush against one another. This interlocking mosaic of fleece traps countless microscopic pockets of air, creating a natural thermal barrier that insulates against the biting frost. As the senior goat settles deeper into the earthen floor, Its joints find comfort against the shared warmth of its companions. The rhythmic rise and fall of neighboring flanks provides a gentle, tactile reassurance, anchoring the animal in a state of deep, restorative rest. In this sheltered alcove, shielded from the scouring mountain gales, the boundaries between individual bodies blur into a singular, cohesive organism of heat retention and quiet endurance. The silence of the cavern deepens, broken only by the soft, steady cadence of collective respiration, holding the cold of the high peaks entirely at bay. Outside the limestone shelter, the moonlit snowfields stretch toward the horizon in shades of luminous silver and deep indigo. Though the senior goat rests with eyes half closed in deep tranquility, its senses remain finely attuned to the nocturnal landscape. Without lifting its head from the warm curve of its flank, the animal perceives the vast, silent expanse through an extraordinary optical design refined by generations of evolution. The secret lies within the distinctive horizontal, rectangular pupils. Unlike the round eyes of many predators, these wide, oblong apertures grant a panoramic, sweeping field of view that spans nearly 300 degrees across the horizon. This remarkable geometry allows the resting goat to monitor movement, shifting shadows, and the subtle contours of distant ridges without ever needing to turn its head. As moonlight cascades across the crystalline snow, specialized cells within the large retina capture the dim, scattered photons. Rod photoreceptors, highly sensitive to low light conditions, translate the faint silver glow into clear shapes and motion. At the same time, a reflective layer behind the retina, the tapetum lucidum, bounces incoming light back through the visual receptors a second time, doubling the effectiveness of every stray moonbeam. This sophisticated nocturnal vision requires no restless movement, preserving precious energy while maintaining a silent, watchful vigil over the surroundings. The aging animal rests in total serenity, perfectly adapted to read the quiet language of the winter night, anchored safely in the pale, luminous beauty of the mountain darkness. Within the quiet sanctuary of the alcove, the senior goat's body shifts into a profound state of biological conservation. As sub-zero temperatures press against the stone walls, an intricate suite of physiological adaptations protects the aging animal. Beneath the coarse, weathered guard hairs of the outer coat lies a dense, ultrafine cashmere underlayer. This winter fleece traps millions of microscopic pockets of air against the skin, creating an impenetrable thermal barrier that retains body heat with effortless efficiency. Deep within the core, metabolic rates adjust to a slower, more deliberate rhythm designed to preserve vital energy stores through the long night. Digestion continues in a slow, steady loop. Rhythmic contractions of the rumen slowly process the fibrous mountain grasses foraged during the fleeting daylight hours, quietly generating a continuous, internal furnace of metabolic heat. With every inhalation, the cool alpine air is warmed within the nasal passages before reaching the lungs, minimizing any loss of precious thermal energy. The breathing is slow and steady, matching the tranquil cadence of the sleeping herd. Surrounded by the collective warmth of the group, the senior mammal rests in deep equilibrium, its physiology perfectly tuned to endure the austere beauty of the frozen season. High above the timberline, a profound stillness settles over the frozen wilderness. The midnight mountain is wrapped in an absolute, velvety quiet, broken only by the gentle, silent descent of powdery snow filtering down through the starlit air. Each flake drifts downward with effortless grace, adding a whisper-soft layer to the pristine mantle blanketing the slopes outside the alcove. Inside the sheltered stone refuge, the atmosphere deepens into a restorative sanctuary. The passage of hours slows to an almost imperceptible crawl. The ambient sounds of the wider world are muffled entirely by thick drifts of packed snow. Even the distant, low moan of the wind high upon the jagged ridges becomes a distant, soothing hum. Within the huddled circle of the resting herd, the rhythm of life reduces to its most peaceful essence. A soft, synchronized breathing rises and falls in the darkness, a chorus of deep, contented sighs that echoes gently against the ancient stone walls. Every inhalation draws in the cool, crisp air, while every exhalation releases a faint, ethereal wisp of warmth that vanishes quietly into the shadows. Beneath the starry canopy, the senior goat rests in total tranquility. The brilliant constellations wheel slowly across the vast velvet sky, indifferent to the freezing temperatures below, while the mountain sleeps under their steady, silver gaze. In this quiet heart of winter, surrounded by the warmth of companions and cradled by the stillness of the earth, the night breathes on in perfect, unbroken harmony. High above the timberline, the celestial sphere continues its majestic, unhurried rotation. The brilliant constellations overhead, the sweeping curve of the hunter, and the distant, frosty shimmer of the northern stars edge imperceptibly westward across the indigo sky. As the earth turns, the long arc of the winter night begins its final, gentle descent toward dawn. Within the sheltered stone alcove, the darkness softens from absolute black to a deep, luminous indigo. The silent snowfall has ceased, leaving the mountain wrapped in an even profounder quiet. Far out across the frozen valley, a distant glacier settles, releasing a low, resonant crack of ancient ice that echoes softly against the rock before fading entirely into the stillness. A subtle, nearly imperceptible transformation touches the eastern horizon. The dark silhouette of the jagged ridgeline grows fractionally distinct against a new, paler shade of blue, the very first herald of the approaching morning. Yet, within the protected heart of the herd, time continues to move at the slow, deliberate pace dictated by deep winter conservation. Metabolic rates remain resting at their lowest baseline, preserving every ounce of vital energy gathered through the long hours. The senior goat lies undisturbed at the center of the clustered group, drawing in slow, measured breaths of the crisp air. The collective rhythm of soft breathing remains steady and unbroken, a warm tide rising and falling in perfect harmony with the resting earth. As the faint pre-dawn light begins to filter down through the starry canopy, the mountain waits patiently at the threshold of a new day. High above the timberline, where the jagged peaks pierce the frozen dark, the winter night reigns in absolute, velvet stillness. Far up on a familiar sheltered mountain ledge, an old goat rests. Here, sheltered from the biting gales by an overhang of ancient gneiss, the air is thin, crisp, and still. A brilliant canopy of winter stars stretches endlessly across the clear night sky, casting a diamond dust shimmer over the fresh, untrodden snow. In this realm of extreme cold, physiological conservation is the key to survival. The mountain ecosystem operates on a strict rhythm of energy preservation. For the aged animal, whose long guard hairs and thick insulating undercoat trap a warm layer of air against the frost, every breath is slow and measured. Metabolic rates drop to meet the sparse demands of the season, a timeless evolutionary adaptation shared by all warm-blooded residents of the high crags. A gentle draft of soft wind whispers over the ridge, carrying the faint, crystalline rustle of powdery snowfall settling upon the slopes below. Farther down the valley, a solitary horned owl calls out across the basin, its haunting hoot dissolving instantly into the vast, absorbing quiet. There is no urgency here, only the profound peace of a landscape caught between the end of one cycle and the promise of another. The old goat's chest rises and falls in a rhythmic, unhurried cadence, perfectly attuned to the ancient heartbeat of the mountains. Under the steady watch of the constellations, the ledge becomes a sanctuary of pure tranquility, cradled by the immense and silent majesty of the sleeping earth. To understand the serenity of this elevated resting place is to understand the vastness of the vertical world the old goat has traversed. Over the course of many years, this single lifetime has spanned thousands of vertical feet of rugged terrain, a migratory arc dictated by the turning of the Alpine seasons. In the flush of spring, the animal's hooves, with their hard outer rims and rubbery, concave soles designed for traction on sheer stone, climbing upward as the snow receded, following the green wave of emerging vegetation. Every rocky outcrop, every precipitous cliff face, and every sheltered gully holds a memory of seasons past. Mountain ungulates possess remarkable spatial memory, charting mental maps of the crags that guide them through summer grazing meadows and treacherous winter storms alike. From the wind-scoured ridges where sure-footed agility is tested daily, down to the sheltered timberline forests where dwarf conifers offer meager browsing when the snowpacks deepen, the landscape has been both home and teacher. This intimate familiarity with the terrain represents a profound ecological integration. The goat's foraging pathways, worn deep into the stone and soil over decades, trace the contours of a lifelong relationship with the mountain. Each slope tells a story of survival, of enduring fierce summer droughts, dodging sudden rockfalls, and weathering blizzards that reduce visibility to zero. The muscle memory of countless climbs is woven into the animal's very biology, a physical archive of steep ascents and sheltered descents. Now, resting upon this high, quiet ledge, the entire vertical kingdom stretches out in stillness, bridged by the quiet breath of a life fully lived across the sweeping gradients of the earth. Upon this quiet, snow-draped shelf, the vast external world fades into a singular, intimate focus, the gentle, restorative rhythm of breath. In the mammalian nervous system, aging brings a conservation of energy, a biological slowing designed to preserve warmth through the harshest months. The old goat's respiration is deep and measured, drawing in the crisp, sub-zero air of the high altitude, where the thin atmosphere demands efficient physiological regulation. With every quiet inhalation, the chest rises just a fraction against the heavy fleece of the winter coat, trapping precious heat close to the skin in a natural insulation system honed by evolution. As the air travels through the nasal passages, it is warmed before reaching the lungs, an elegant adaptation for surviving extreme alpine cold. Exhalation sends a faint plume of mist into the starlit stillness, dissolving almost instantly into the silent air. The heart rate, too, has settled into a steady, unhurried cadence, matching the profound stillness of the surrounding peaks. There is no urgency here, only the pure, rhythmic mechanics of rest. Every physical system of the body slows in harmonious accord with the dormant winter landscape, finding a deep, restorative equilibrium. In this state of profound conservation, muscle fibers that once scaled sheer precipices now relax completely, letting go of the accumulated tension of a lifetime spent navigating vertical stone. The weight of the body rests comfortably against the soft snow, supported by the earth that has been a lifelong companion. Each breath is lighter than the last, a continuous, fading wave of life energy that mirrors the quiet falling of snowflakes all around. Time seems to stretch infinitely wide, held suspended in the space between heartbeats, where the only movement is the slow, peaceful rise and fall of a quiet chest, drifting deeper into the calm embrace of the mountain night. Even in isolation upon this high limestone shelf, the old goat is never truly alone. Across the vast evolutionary history of caprines, social cohesion remains a primary driver of survival, knitting the herd together through silent frequencies and shared awareness. Down in the sheltered timberline below, tucked safely against the biting wind, the rest of the band rests in a tight, communal huddle. Though miles of shadowed ravines and deep drifts separate them, the biological architecture of connection endures. Through the thin mountain air, carried on the gentle draft of the soft wind, subtle chemical cues and faint echoes drift upward. Olfactory signals, the familiar scent of dense coats and crushed sage, bridge the distance, reminding the resting senses of the collective body. Mammalian neurobiology relies heavily on these invisible ties. Even at rest, the brain tracks the presence of kin. The familiar shuffling of hooves on distant packed snow and the low, resonant rumbling of social vocalizations echo softly off the canyon walls, faint as a heartbeat. This distant chorus anchors the animal within the wider social structure of the ecosystem. It is a biological tapestry woven over seasons of migration, shared vigilance against predators, and mutual warmth during fierce blizzards. The herd's collective heart rate, their shared vigilance, and their unified rhythm act as an invisible anchor for the solitary elder. The old goat's ears twitch just a fraction, a reflexive, unconscious tuning into the community that defined a lifetime. In this quiet moment, the boundaries between individual and group blur. The ancient wisdom carried in the old bones is already part of the herd's enduring memory, a continuous thread passing quietly from one generation to the next, held safely in the embrace of the sleeping peaks. High upon the sheltered limestone ledge, the world grows wonderfully still. The soft wind eases into a gentle, rhythmic hush, carrying the faintest whispers of falling snow as delicate flakes drift down through the freezing air. The old goat's breathing slows, shifting from the measured cadence of deep rest into a softer, shallower pattern. In the quiet biology of senescence, the body conserves its final reserves with supreme grace, gradually lowering the core metabolic rate until every movement ceases. There is no struggle here, only the profound, natural relaxation of a well-worn frame yielding at last to absolute exhaustion. The distant owl calls one last time from the timberline, a muffled hoot swallowed entirely by the deep drifts. On the rocky shelf, dusted in pure white, the heavy winter coat blends seamlessly into the Alpine contours. The heavy eyelids close completely, and the tension melts from the curved horns and sturdy joints that have climbed these precipitous heights for countless seasons. Every muscle relaxes, releasing the accumulated weight of a lifetime spent navigating cliffs, weathering storms, and thriving within the ancient rhythms of the wild. As the pale pre-dawn light begins to filter through the eastern clouds, painting the high ridges in shades of slate and amethyst, the stars overhead softly fade from view. The first gentle touch of dawn warms the frost along the ridge, signaling the continuation of the eternal mountain cycle. Life and death are simply different expressions of the same enduring landscape. Below, the herd stirs in the timberline, rising to meet the new day, while the old goat rests in profound, undisturbed peace, forever woven into the timeless sanctuary of the peaks. Higher still, the golden pink luminescence of the rising sun breaches the jagged horizon, igniting the highest crags in a brilliant alpine glow. This first touch of solar radiation initiates a vital thermodynamic shift across the frozen slopes. As photons strike the pristine snowpack, a microscopic layer of surface ice begins to sublimate, releasing moisture directly into the thin, crisp air. The surrounding ecosystem responds instantly to this diurnal awakening. In the valley forest below, metabolic dormancy yields to action as the surviving herd members rise from their sheltered bedding grounds, shaking the heavy frost from their dense undercoats to begin the daily search for buried forage. Energy flows endlessly through this resilient landscape, passing seamlessly from soil to lichen, herbivore to carnivore, in a perpetual loop of biological recycling. The nutrients once gathered across a lifetime of grazing now return quietly to the alpine earth, enriching the soil beneath the ledge for the next generation of resilient mountain flora. Nothing in the high peaks is ever truly lost. It is simply transformed, absorbed back into the majestic blueprint of the wilderness. The wind stirs softly once more, carrying the faint scent of melting pine and cold stone across the silent stone. The stars have vanished entirely into the bright expanse of the morning sky, leaving behind a tranquil, unending expanse of blue. Here, at the roof of the world, the cycle turns once more, steady and unhurried, held safely within the timeless embrace of the winter mountains.